So we'll talk with Marcus Allen coming up today. We'll see.
I'm still trying to get to Jordan, but I think you got to – I'm glad you got your shot because I don't know if I'll ever get to Michael about the baby shoe I tried to get signed that ended up getting lost in the crowd at Tahoe one year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
I was a 5-year-old and got trampled by 30-year-olds, so
that sucks, man.
That's how it works.
Yeah. But that's a little, I guess a little more
and that's not
understandable from Jordan's perspective
really Jordan's
as opposed to
there,
what, there's Reggie Bush right there. Reggie. All right, 913-912-4810. Let's hear some clips from the press conferences earlier today, and we'll also be able to play some of the guys that I was able to catch up with today, and Mike Caliendo and Joe Cullen and Steve Spagnuolo and guys like that. But I want to play this clip from Travis Kelce. And, which do you have either one of them, Dylan? I'm sorry, man. We'll just do this on the fly on the air live. Do you have either one of those clips? Because I could play either one if you have one of them. So there's two clips that I sent to Dylan. I'll tell you this much, a little peek behind the covers, how the sausage is made. The Wi-Fi here, not working. Not working, I'll tell you that much. The Wi-Fi is slowly. I think I did my speed test on my iPad, and it was giving me 1.6 megabytes per second. 1.6. Not
made
the best
a dial-up
videos.
sound.
It was the handshake, the dial-up handshake that happens. Yes, that's exactly what was taking place. But let's play this one then, because this is the one we have. This is Travis Kelce was asked about, we played Nico Remigio, that conversation we had with Nico yesterday. We played that conversation. And Travis Kelce was asked about, hey, Nico said after the AFC Championship game that, you told him after the fair catch, that's not great. That's not being great. You need to go out there and be great. And then he had that big punt return, and he said, see, that's being great. Here's Travis Kelce when asked at the podium earlier today about that interaction with Nico Remigio.
I don't remember telling him he wasn't great on that play. I just remember telling him be great. Who Nico is as a returner he's a special player. And I thought he could have stole a few more yards or at least not have gone for the fair catch there. And, I didn't realize at the moment he was doing it because he didn't feel comfortable in returning that. And it's like, by all means, do your job, dog. If you don't feel comfortable returning that thing, don't do it. And sure enough, he went out there the next time, had a huge play for us, and I was so happy for him. I was the first guy to run over to him and get hyped for him and tell him he was being great. So I got all the love in the world for Nico, and I definitely trust everything he's doing back there. I don't know if I challenge guys individually. I think I'm naturally just on the sidelines making sure everybody has the sense of urgency to, get excited about their job for sure.
This is something we talked about with Adam Teicher a couple of weeks ago when Adam did the story about Travis Kelce and all the behind-the-scenes stuff and his leadership and how he's grown over the years. We can talk about the production that Travis Kelce has on the field. We can talk about the impact he has on other players when he's got so much of the focus on him, and other players then may get one-on-ones or may get more space to work in the offense. But the one thing that will not be able to be replaced is Travis Kelce as a leader on this team, as a guy who is setting things by example, right? Showing that leadership, not just telling them what to do or do as I say, not as I do, that it is by example of how he's going about his business, the work ethic, the things like that. But as he said, I guess I just, anybody just that comes off the sideline or field, whatever, just, be your best. And Travis Kelce has certainly been one of those guys that is we know he's a huge reason for this whole thing. And the dynasty is a big-time reason as to why this Chiefs team is playing in their third straight Super Bowl in 5 of the last 6 years. But that leadership aspect of just pulling everybody along with him. Like, all right, if you can't get there, I'll pull you along with me. We know Patrick Mahomes does that as well. Here's Travis Kelce. This was an interesting question. I loved the way that this question was phrased because – it's so simple and easy just to go, hey, Travis, what do you think about the people that say that you guys get all the calls? Or what do you think about the refs being on your side? What do you think about this and that? This was a great question. I don't know who asked the question, who she was, what media organization she was with. But the question was phrased, Travis, there are a lot of people that feel like you guys are given the breaks in these games. Why do you think people dislike other people's success? And what a great way to phrase that, as in, like, yeah, they're talking about the refs, but ultimately what it is disliking a dynasty. Travis, why do you think other people dislike other people's success?
Remember, hating on him as much, but I definitely remember. I don't know. I feel like I've been there before, and I used to look at the Patriots like that, and I used to have the desire to have the success that they had. I don't necessarily remember, hating on them as much, but I definitely remember wanting the desire or having the desire to be like them for sure, and to be at the top of the mountain, and to be, year in, year out, the standard in the NFL. And yeah, it's come a long way, I guess.
Yeah, hey, Travis, over here.
Travis Kelce, and I don't know, he talked about the New England Patriots and having the desire to be like them. Not sure if he hated them. That tells me, like, I'm not sure if I hated him, which means, like, he was probably rooting against them. Maybe not hating him, but, like, come on, somebody else, somebody different. Let's go. I mean, this is now 3 or 4 back if you're talking about the early 2000s. And then when Travis was in college, the Patriots were, still the class of the AFC. They had already, I think he was in high school when they had the undefeated season, right? And again, you're in the AFC. You're a Cleveland Browns fan. If you're Travis Kelce, of course, you're probably finding yourself rooting against the dynasty, rooting against that great team. And that's just something that we've seen. And we've seen that from all these different types of dynasties that are out there, that the worm turns eventually. You're the toast of the town, and then, people hate you. And that's certainly going on with this team. But it'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend. We were out last night, Dylan, and we were walking back from dinner. We had a nice little meal, broke some bread last night, but had a nice meal with the group. And Todd and I are walking back. We walked over to Bourbon Street real quick, and then Todd and I are like, all right, man, let's head back. It's like 10 o'clock at night, ready to get some shut-eye for tomorrow's crazy busy day with all these different guests we got, and I got to prepare for those things. And we got the early media availability for the Chiefs at 8 o'clock, and you got to get there at like 7, so you got to get there at 7, which means you probably leave the hotel about 6:30. It's 10 o'clock. Let's go. So we're walking back to our hotel, and there's this little dive spot where it's just sort of open air where people are kind of hanging out. And as we walk by, we see one of the Chiefs' assistant coaches. I'm not going to say who, but we see one of the Chiefs' assistant coaches, not a coordinator, but one of the assistant coaches. And it's like, hey, coach. And he recognizes Todd, obviously, because Todd is, out there every day. And he's like, hey, what's going on? And so we kind of just hung out with them for probably 10, 15 minutes. Curtis Martin ended up walking by randomly on Canal Street, and then we started hanging out with Curtis Martin a little bit too. That was odd. But in talking with him, just like, hey, this everybody we're talking to, they're discussing that, they're not really going out. Like, they may go grab something to eat like earlier or later in the afternoon. But like once it gets like starting to get the evening, they're inside. They're ordering in. They're not really going out and doing a whole lot. Not necessarily exploring the town. And his reaction was, he's like, he said, well, there's a couple of people that have gone out to dinner. He goes, but man, I'm telling you, these guys are locked in. He goes, I'm telling you, man, this team is, and there wasn't a camera on him, right? There wasn't a microphone on him, right? Now he knows he's talking to media members, but I think there's a relationship that's there, as he sort of has an understanding that Lebo isn't a guy that would just be like, oh, I'm going to record this and I'm going to go and say anything that's off the record. Like, there was nothing off the record that was there, but I think there might be a little more weight to it when he's just like, man, these guys are really locked in. And he goes, now some of them may be waiting to go to nicer dinners when their family gets here in town, when they've got a little free time and stuff like that. He goes, but I'm telling you, these guys are ready to go. They are absolutely locked in. We also found out that Taylor's already here. So how about that? So we found out last night that Taylor Swift is already in town here. But I'm going to guess that's pretty low key. Yes, that's right.
I would have said it, but our friend Rodney says it better. Todd Lebo he's always going to get the scoop, and he's always just, that happens to Todd. As Sterling would say, he lives a farcical life.
Yeah, Sterling lives a farcical life, but Todd, we're just walking back and we run into an assistant coach who's just hanging out, just sitting with some friends. And it's like 10 o'clock at night. There's no players out, obviously, because curfew and everything like that. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm searching, but I do feel like Andy Reid looks a lot more relaxed. Patrick Mahomes looks a lot more like business-like this year than like the last few, because when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year, from that second of celebrating on the stage to Sunday, it's been a singular focus. It's been about what can you get a three-peat, singular focus, go win it again, and make history. And that's sort of the way that I'm thinking about this game and the confidence of the Chiefs finding a way to win is that the way that I would phrase it is the Eagles are trying to win a Super Bowl. The Chiefs are trying to create history. The Eagles are going for a Super Bowl. The Chiefs are going for history. And they have been thinking about, like, the Eagles had a rough year last year, right? Okay, the Eagles, had a pretty big collapse. But, like, from the second the Chiefs won that Super Bowl last year to now, that's what it's all about. It's been about this and Sunday. And I do believe this team is incredibly locked in. I do believe Patrick Mahomes is really locked in. And Andy Reid looks a little more loose. And, again, that assistant coach last night saying, man, I'm telling you, these guys are locked in. These guys are focused, man. So, yeah, there's not a lot of and he said, look, we tell them, hey, man, after the Super Bowl, you guys can always come back here and hang out in the city. If you want to explore the city, come on back here after we're done. You got a little bit off season that you guys can come take a trip and enjoy this city. We're here to win a football. We're here to win a football game. We're here to get a job done. We're here to do what we're supposed to do. So we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Kurt Warner comes up next. All right, we come right back. So we went to a commercial break, but of course, these things happen here at Radio Row in the Super Bowl. And hey, man, we get to talk to Kurt Warner, NFL Hall of Famer, Super Bowl champion, and you'll hear him on the call of Westwood One with Kansas City's very own Kevin Harlan coming up on Sunday, and Laura Oakman, and Scott Graham, who we talked to yesterday. So Kurt Warner joining us here. Kurt, how are you, sir?
I am doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good, aren't you?
You look good.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, you
I
look
feel
great.
good. This is the time of the year,
Yeah.
right? You've worked all, even as an analyst, right? You put in 22 weeks for this,
Yeah.
to be able to see a matchup like this, great storylines like this, the excitement of New Orleans in the Super Bowl. I mean, it doesn't get any better.
How many drives could you give us right now if we needed one?
I could give you a couple. I could give you a couple. Yeah.
Okay.
How much? Like in this NFL, I probably wouldn't get hit. So maybe I could give you.
That's a great point.
Maybe I could give you a few more than that.
That's
But I
really
feel
good point.
great. I feel good.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I was thinking about just sort of this matchup and these quarterbacks, and wanting to talk to you about this and what you see from a guy like a Patrick Mahomes. We've talked before, but how difficult it is to be in a position that the Chiefs are. Justin Watson has been to 4 Super Bowls. He was on the Buccaneers team that beat the Chiefs, and now he's going to 3 straight. And he said the one thing about this team that there's never a Super Bowl hangover feel. Like, there's never a feel of a hangover. And I didn't think about it like that, because we talk about so many other teams, like they get there and then they fall back, and they get there and they fall back, and it's just sort of expected that the Chiefs go. What does that say about the team, the organization, and how difficult is it that there isn't a Super Bowl or an AFC Championship hangover for this team ever?
Yeah, I mean, I was joking. I was talking to Patrick this week, and, he had made the comment, like, we appreciate it, because we know how tough it is to get here. And all of us that are on the outside are going, how do you know how tough it is? Like 5 and 6, like you don't know how tough it is. Guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson know how tough it is. But the point is, they realize the grind that goes into, putting in, 18 weeks and then having to play your best football and then playing against other great players and the sacrifices that go into it and the challenges of the changes. That's the other thing is all the changes. A couple years ago, best offense in the league, that's how they get there. Now it's best defense or one of the best defenses in the league, and offense just trying to find the ability to evolve and the ability to continually challenge yourself with change, I think, is the beautiful thing about, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, is that they're always looking at it like this is a new situation. This is a new team. This is a new challenge, where the complacency usually comes with like, oh, here we are again, same guys doing the same thing. Here's what we expect. We should go back. I think some of the changes we've seen within the organization within this run is part of what helps keep that edge. Is like, okay, Patrick, I got to do it a little bit differently. Like, I got to find a way to get first downs instead of throw touchdowns. And I think those challenges, and because you have the right people with the right mentality, that's what's allowed them to look at every season as a different season and keep that edge.
We've seen Patrick Mahomes evolve as a player, that he's talked about that, he feels the flow of the game more. Back in the day, it was just like, let's throw deep. Let's take this shot. Yeah. 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, MVP, burst onto the scene, AFC championship, overtime loss, right? And he says now he can feel the flow of the game and what needs to be done. How did you evolve? How long did it take you sort of to evolve as a quarterback and having, maybe it was natural for you, that sort of feel of this is what's needed in this moment in this game?
I think so much of it does come down to the specific situation or the team that you're on. Like when I was with the Greatest Show on Turf, like I won the MVP one year throwing 22 interceptions, which people look at that and go like, how is that possible? Well, because my mentality was we are going to constantly pressure the defense. And I don't care if I make 1 or 2 mistakes a game, because I'm going to make way more plays and we're going to still win. Like that year we were 14-2.
Yeah.
And so it seems weird, but that was the mentality with that team. I went to the Giants and we weren't going to throw the ball at all. So however, I played 9 games and I throw like 4 interceptions. And it's like, because I had to play a different way. It was like 3 yards in a cloud of dust, get a first down, punt if we need to, and then Arizona was kind of the mix of both. And so I think so much of it comes down to understanding your environment and your team and saying, how does this team need me to play to win? And that's kind of what you're talking about with the flow of the game or the flow of our team. What's the situation? What is needed of me in this situation? And I think the great ones have the ability to do that. Know when they need to throw for 300 yards and when they just need to get to completion and get a first down so we can keep the drive going and we can keep our defense on the sideline or keep another offense off the field. And I think Patrick does an unbelievable job of making the right play in the moment. And I think the best quarterbacks in the league are the ones that do just that. If it's a throwaway, throw it away. We've seen Patrick make some incredible throws and take some incredible chances with the football. I think he realizes with this team, that's not who I can't be that guy. I've got to get the first down guy. I got to keep the chains moving guy, and then, hopefully make that play again, when we're in the red zone and so we can put points on the board. But I think so much is dictated by understanding your environment and saying, oh, I'm not just one guy. Like I got to win a lot of different ways. I don't know if there's a lot of quarterbacks that can win a lot of different ways or learn how to win a lot of different ways.
It's what makes the evaluation of quarterback process so difficult, because if anybody had an idea that Patrick Mahomes would be this guy late in the game, whose blood pressure and heart rate drops when he's on the field late in the game, and that's been, all the different devices that he wears. Like when he's on the sideline, his heart rate is elevated because he's not out there. On the field, just like calm, and in that moment, there's can you see that in a quarterback before he's put into those situations in the evaluation process? Like that seems like that would be so difficult to know that, well, this person just has it, because how do you define it?
I don't know if you can really know that until they're there. And I think that's why it is so hard to evaluate, because a lot of guys have talent. A lot of guys can make this kind of throw or that kind of throw or can run really fast or do this. But yeah, I don't think you ever really know who's the guy that can elevate their game, and I don't even want to say elevate, because I think the thing that I've realized with guys like Patrick, and we talked a little bit about Jaden Daniels this year, is we point to the last 5 minutes of a game, or we point to the last 2 minutes of the game, and we say, oh my gosh, he plays great in those times. But what I've come to realize is I watch Patrick play for 60 minutes. And what I see is the last 2 minutes, he plays just like he plays the first 58 minutes. And what I mean by that is he makes the right play then, just like he did early in a game. Jaden Daniels did the same thing. Jaden Daniels did the same thing this year, as he was so good in the moment. Well, all he did was play the way he's played the entire game. And other guys, I think, feel the pressure, and they get away from being who they are for the other 58 minutes.
Interesting.
That's not who Patrick is. And so Patrick, he's not doing anything incredible like these crazy throws. And he's just like, oh, now it's 3rd and 1. Oh, I got an opening. Let me run for 2 yards. He ran for 2 yards. But it's the right play in the right moment. And that's what I think makes him great, is his normal is greatness. And all he does is play his normal all the time. And that's what separates him from everybody else.
Kurt Warner's our guest, Westwood One, NFL Hall of Famer. QBconfidential.com. What's pardon my ignorance on this.
No, it's quite all right. And so I still have a great passion for the game. And I've always thought I wanted to coach, but I'm never going to give the time to being a full-time coach. So I created my own teaching website called QBconfidential.com, all from a quarterback's perspective, designed for quarterbacks, coaches, fans that want to know more about the game. And then I've extended that, so I have QB Confidential on YouTube as well, where I do
So I've watched those.
So I do weekly breakdowns, but I've got an actual teaching website that's got an incredible amount. I'm really, really proud of it. If you want to learn the game, if you're a young quarterback, really just any quarterback or any coach that's learning about offensive football or teaching the quarterback or technique, I've got all those different elements on there. So I've been building it over the last 4 years. I'm really proud of it. I've gotten great feedback on it, but it's kind of my way to coach and teach the game without actually getting into a full-time coaching role.
The YouTube breakdowns are amazing. So I love watching those, because there's so much information, so much you can learn for the novice like me that obviously did not play the quarterback position and a guy who's in the Hall of Fame. I do wonder, I was looking at the Final Four quarterbacks in the championship games, and I wonder if we start, as we get ready to be in this draft process and this draft evaluation of these quarterbacks and things like that, if we start to, I don't know if we adjust the way that we evaluate quarterbacks, because I think all 4 of the guys playing, there was a lot of focus on the red flags, and there wasn't as much emphasis on what this guy can do really well. People were thrown off by Patrick Mahomes, and Brett Veach and Mike Borgonzi talked about it and said, well, they were too focused on the red flags. We were seeing how great they can be. Josh Allen, low completion percentage at Wyoming. There's no way you can increase that in the NFL. Well, what was the context to that? What was going on with his team, who they're playing, offensive line? Jaden Daniels, he never throws to the middle of the field. He's accurate outside, but, man, he's always running around. And I don't know, he's maybe just going to be another Justin Fields. But then looking at some of the positives there, Jalen Hurts was not a first-rounder. And I do wonder if, you can't just simply only focus on the positives there, but it seems like these 4 quarterbacks, there was so much about the red flags and not necessarily about here's what they can really do and emphasize.
Well, I think one thing, too, that you talk about is a lot of those red flags that you mentioned are physical things, right, or things that you see in terms of the play style of these different guys. What I look at when I look at these 4 guys that, are in the Final Four, I look at their mental makeup. And that's the thing to me that always separates the great quarterbacks, is who they are mentally, what they're capable of, how they think the game, how they lead, the way they process information. Even if everything physically isn't, doesn't wow you, or, you don't have a great completion percentage here, or you don't, throw the ball 1,000,000 yards like a Jalen Hurts type of, it's looking at the mental makeup, because I believe that's what always separates these guys. The ability to process information, whether that's processing to make the right decision in 2 seconds, or whether that's processing like Patrick Mahomes to go, what's the right play in this moment? Jaden Daniels, is what impressed me more than anything that he did physically this year, was the number of times he made the right play. Oh, it's not there, throw it away. And see all these young guys running around trying to make the play in the moment.
Yeah.
He's just throwing it away. He runs for 3 yards instead of trying to force it when he doesn't see it. Like, that to me is the caveat to all great quarterbacks are guys that mentally can play the game. They can mentally lead, can mentally, process information. And so I think we get caught up too often with the physical part of things.
Yeah.
How fast are they? How far do they run? Or, how far do they throw? And some of those things, is their technique great? Instead of going, show me their makeup. And when you see the makeup of the guy, now you say, this is something I can build around. And I think that's what gets lost because we want to just watch the tape. And obviously the tape tells us a bunch. But it's sitting down with these guys. Like when you talk to people that sat down with Patrick Mahomes, like that really studied him. I did a little interview with Bruce Arians, and he had a chance to sit, and he's like, he was off the charts in what he did and what he could process, what he could tell us on the board, and and his situational understanding. And that's what sold us. And so the physical was great, but there was technique and there was this and there was that. But it's like, if you give me this mind along with we can make it work.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we miss too often in the evaluation process.
Kurt Warner's our guest, Westwood One. You'll hear him right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. How difficult from a quarterback's perspective is it to go up against Steve Spagnuolo?
It's a challenge. Because they're going to do things that are a little bit unorthodox. Like, I used to always say, like, I would play against Jim Johnson, who was a great defense coordinator for the Eagles for a long time. And what I always thought was, if you're going to bring something conventional, like if the safety comes down over here, then the blitz has to come from that side. Like, it's like you're going to give me some creative and you're going to blitz me a lot, but it makes sense. He would always sometimes, like, drop a safety here and then blitz somebody from the other side. And I'd be like, they can't do – like, there's nobody over there to cover, so I wasn't looking at it. And that's the kind of stuff that Spags does, where it's not I don't want to say that he leaves himself exposed because he does a great job of bringing different blitzes and always having, a guy to cover for it. But he's going to challenge you by bringing things that aren't normal, the 4th and 5, where he brought, the backside linebacker and the corner blitz from that side, they bring more corner blitzes than anybody in the National Football League. It's one of the hardest things for any quarterback to see because we think about 7 guys in the box. What linebacker can come? And then the coverage guys are the coverage guys. So when you bring coverage guys, that's the hardest thing for us to identify. And so those are the kind of things that he does is he's going to give you the little twists and things that you don't see every week. So it's harder to prepare for, right? If I'm not used to looking at a corner blitz every week, then I get in against Spags and I'm looking at this and all of a sudden, boom, he hits me with a corner blitz and I don't see it. And so that's the great challenge of playing against him. You got to be on top of throwing your hots. You got to be on top of having answers because he's going to attack your protections, bring free guys. How do you answer those questions? And that's what I kind of love to do.
Yeah.
Like with QB Confidential is every week I'm going, okay, if I'm playing against Spags this week, what's my game plan? What am I doing on 3rd down? How am I attacking these blitzes? And that's the fun part against great coordinators.
I know you can't give a prediction, but real quick, 20 seconds or less, biggest a key that you're watching in this game that could dictate how this game will go?
I think it's about the trenches.
Yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs, they've been so good with Spags of stopping the run, playing against the best offensive line in football, and obviously Saquon. Can they stop the run? Can they do what they've done in all of these playoff games to make it, more of a Jalen Hurts against Patrick Mahomes type game? I think that's the key. I think, the Eagles are great in the trenches, not that the Chiefs aren't, but that's where this game will be dictated one way or another, and then it will fall into the hands of the quarterbacks with the ball in their hands. And we know who we like in that situation. As much as I like Jalen, Patrick's as good as anybody there.
Kurt Warner, Westwood One, Hall of Famer, QB Confidential. Kurt, thank you for stopping by. Really appreciate
it. Good to talk to you.
Man.
Have a fun week.
Absolutely, you too. There's Kurt Warner joining us here on Sports Radio 810 at WHB. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling, and we'll talk with Gene Steratore coming up next. Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock hanging out at Radio Row in New Orleans, Super Bowl 59 on Sunday. You hear it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, Westwood One's coverage. Kevin Harlan on the call. We talked with Kurt Warner a little bit ago, and now getting a chance to talk with the NFL rules analyst for Westwood One. It is a former official in the NFL and college basketball, Gene Steratore, joining us here in the zone. Gene, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Jason. How are you doing?
I am doing just fine. You know, one of the things that I've been wondering for a while, especially this year, is how do the refs sort of get together and pick out which team to pull for and throw flags for? Like, how does that happen? Like, is that a big meeting? Is it like a conference call, a Zoom? What takes place with that?
It's just not a call that ever happens, my friend. I can assure you that just working these games is hard enough. I mean, it just don't have enough time to decide, you know, who the individual is or what does the country really want me to do. It just isn't anything that falls in that purview, guys. It's a color and it's a number and it's a play and man, we just want to get all 165 of them today right, because if we miss one, we know that the whole world's going to focus on the one miss and not the other 164 we got right. That's for sure.
I joked with Clark Hunt earlier this week, and I said, you know, what are the meetings like with the owners to decide who to rig it for? And he said, he goes, well, they were really nice. Like, the owners coming together and agreeing that the Chiefs would get to win all these Super Bowls. It's really surprising that these owners were so nice to allow us to do that. I'm like, thank you, Clark. Somebody finally told the truth, Gene. Somebody told us. It's real, man. Gene Steratore is our guest. I do wonder, like, because it's a huge broadcast, right? The AFC Championship game, you know, broke records. You know, almost 60 million people watching that game. And in your role as the rules analyst, do you feel in the moment sort of the influence you have on the commentary of what that will sort of be shaped around is, well, Gene said this or said that. In the moment, do you have an idea of like, well, if I'm saying this, then I know that this is what the sort of conversation is going to be about?
Yeah, I think, you know, in order to be at the level of awareness that's required to officiate these types of things, to also be in the press box next to talented people like Jim Nance and Tony Romo, and just living in that space. And as you said, breaking records every year. It seems like every year you say, well, that it can't go up next year, and it does. Yeah, you definitely understand the magnitude of your thoughts or how you're breaking something down. And quite frankly, it's kind of the reason why I really love this position, because it's a tremendous amount of pressure. Because you're not the opinionated color analyst that can just voice their opinion, you know, right or wrong at sometimes, right? Just out of your gut feel. You're being taxed with, you know, letting the country know, hopefully, and giving them the information of how these things are broken down and why the result was this, even though we may disagree. You know, it's a very large responsibility to try to make what at times are very complicated scenarios, and you want to make them, you know, digestible to even the casual viewer. That's how we increase our numbers as well. So, yeah, there's a ton of pressure that way. And it's not, I think sometimes naturally in my position, the current position, these tough 50-50 plays, and you're breaking them down, and maybe at the end of it, you lean toward what the officials have done because you truly believe that. Inevitably, you're going to be, you know, shamed and named, and, you know, that you're this or that working undercover for so-and-so. But, you know, one thing I really loved about officiating, because I thought it was liberating, was I knew that whatever decision I made on the quarter field, half of the place was going to like me. The other half was just not going to like me. And it was a kind of a liberating feeling to know that, you know, no matter what you decide here, you're going to be hated as much as you're going to be liked. So do what you feel is the right thing for the game, and let the haters hate and the lovers love, because they'll switch roles here in the next 10 seconds, and the lovers will hate you, and the haters, they'll accept you. So, but yeah, there's a ton of pressure with this, and then I think it's a big responsibility, and I really, quite frankly, I really enjoy it.
It's funny because it doesn't matter what you say, because there's a narrative that you can build around it. Like, if you agree with the call, that goes against my team, well, he's going to agree with the call anyway. Like, he's not going to disagree with the refs. Or if a call goes against my team and you disagree with the call, it's like even Gene said that that the call was wrong. Just sort of whatever side you want to go with, that it can work in your favor. Would you, let me ask you this, I don't know if you've been asked this, you probably have, but would you have overturned the fourth down in one spot with what the video evidence was and what seemed to be as close as it was? Would you have had enough there to overturn to award a first down to the Bills?
You know, I think what you do is if you have to fall into those boundaries and principles of how the replay system is working, and what we have, even though we're continuously increasing technology, like our phones get upgraded every 3 months, technology continues to go at this unbelievable pace, and we do want to keep up with it, I think, because at the end of the day, you want to do the things that technology can help hopefully get things right without hurting the flow of the game, the efficiency of the way the games are run, and not making it very viewable or enjoyable. But you do then have to fall back into the principles that follow the boundaries of a ruling or how you get to that. I was asked on TV what I thought. When I was asked what I thought, it allowed me to kind of expand at that point for that moment to say what I really felt. And I felt like it felt like it was beyond the line to game. With that said, if you go back and sit in the replay monitor booth and say, they put the ball here, show me exactly when we have this unbelievably clear angle that we can move this football 4 inches ahead. We all know that when players are running near the line to gain on the sideline and they're reaching the football, when did the ball actually cross the sideline as the airborne player was reaching for the first down? Very difficult play to overturn or adjust unless egregiously missed. The same rulings and the same principles apply with most of these first downs where you have kind of a tush-push conglomeration of rugby people. You know, what are the chances of having this unbelievably clean shot to say that's exactly when the player was down and there is the football and we know, within an inch or a half inch where to adjust this football? They're tough plays to overturn. So from the way that this process works, difficult play to more than likely overturn. Gut feeling, watching it, it feels like it's beyond. But can you question how they adjudicated it? You really can't, because we saw all the angles they saw. And it's a tough play to move the ball, and always gave me an uneasy feeling if you had to leave a replay booth or an iPad, go 40 yards onto the field and know without measuring before that if I move this football by an inch and a half or an inch and 3/4, is that then the difference by an eighth of an inch on the determination? And did I get it exactly right? So a little anxiety there, too, if you have to go back out and kind of move it a little bit. I think that's why I probably just went with the index card and got it done, out front and let everybody hate me for going old school on it, But they're tough plays to overturn.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to say no. I'm going to write down no for that one for Gene's territory. Hey, a couple real quick ones because I know you got to go. But how does one official overrule another when they're both coming in from the sideline and they have different spots? What's the process there? Because people that were rooting against the Chiefs say that the official on top had on top of the screen had the right call, and then the other side is like, well, the official at the bottom had the better view. How do you choose which one that you end up going with at that moment?
You know what you try to do is you try to become human with it, and you think about how many times we've seen plays at the goal line where two officials are running as hard as they can in from the sides because they're the ones that are marking the forward progress or where that play ended, and they haven't seen anything yet, which is the reality of it, right? You start to run in and you're hoping that the ball shows itself, just like if we were reviewing. Now, as you're coming in hard because you know it's in there somewhere and I don't see it, what you hope is one of those two officials gets that opening and sees the ball. And if they do, he or she should immediately then try to take the floor in that conversation by elevating their voice as they're coming in with, I have the spot. I've got a really good feeling where the spot is. Give me that ball. And that's what you want. You want an aggressive official who's coming in hard knowing that he or she can't see it yet, and you're getting to that place. Inevitably, there are times when you get all the way up there, 35 yards of a sprint, and you still haven't seen it. And now you've got to go in there and try to dig it, find it, and know where that is when you find it. But that's really the way that it works. It's not so much as an overruling someone. It's like, hey, I'm coming in hard, and I felt like I really saw it. Get me that ball. I feel like I can give us the best opportunity to put it, in the most exact spot. And then it's inevitable, right? As we watch this play happen, one official is 8 inches or so on one side of the line to gain, and another is 3 inches on the other side of the line to gain as they're running in. And we've now dissected that like they made this definitive choice to run this exact way when they were 40 yards away, which is absolutely ridiculous. You're coming in and but that's how we dissect things. And because one was 8 to 10 inches, from the other, and that 8 to 10 inches came down to what was or wasn't a first down, we have scrutinized this, as much as any play I've seen. But that's really the gist mechanically of how it's done.
Gene Steratore, Westwood One. I know you got to go 20 seconds or less. Any chance the conversation about the Chiefs or the refs favor the Chiefs seeps into the minds of referees and they want to overcorrect with that? I've heard people say that is a possibility for Sunday.
No, I think you know what. Listen, again, on this stage, getting prepared for this, there is only one conversation overall that takes place, and that is let us really focus as much as we ever have in our careers to get every single play right and every decision correct, because we understand the magnitude of this game, the difficulty of each play, and the work to perfection, understanding that in this business of officiating, the only standard is perfection, and anything less than that is going to be scrutinized exponentially. It's part of what you embrace when you take these types of jobs, and it's one of the few things in life where anything short of perfection, quite frankly, isn't acceptable. And I'm glad that that's not the case in everything, because we're really not a perfect race overall. Well, there's mistakes everywhere. The good teams, they capitalize on the mistakes. If that mistake may be the human imperfection of missing a call that awarded someone a first down or line to gain, and now that usually happens with great teams, they'll take that play, which may have been officiated incorrectly, and they'll capitalize. That's the teams that have been playing in the last 2 or 3 weeks. They're teams that have capitalized on the imperfections that take place during the game. In officiating, it may be a questionable call that went their way, and then they take it down for a score, and then the conspiracy starts. And but no, they're focused right now on maybe the only 7 people in the entire thing that are participating that want to be out in front of 150 million people and never be recognized, if that makes any sense in our day and age. Yeah. But that is the true goal of this crew, is to work this game and be unrecognized. And that's not an easy task, and I know they'll do their best to do that.
Gene Steratore, Westwood One, NFL rules analyst. Gene, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. The information was great. And enjoy the game on Sunday. We'll be listening right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, Westwood One's coverage of it. Thank you, sir.
You got it. Thanks, Chase. Have a great week.
Absolutely, you too. There's Gene Steratore, NFL rules analyst. You see him on the broadcasts throughout the weeks, and hear him on Westwood One, and he'll be the rules analyst coming up on Sunday for the Super Bowl with Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner. We talked with Kurt Warner earlier this hour. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk with Matt Lane coming up next. He said, I think he got it by a third of the football, which is what everybody has run with, right? Well, Eugene Steratore said he got it, asking him, would you overturn the call? And he said, with the way the call on the field was and our mechanics of the replay, in the Gene Steratore voice and, going through, and do I have enough really to move it ahead, like 2 or 3 inches? What's the camera angle? Do we have that? And all of that stuff, and essentially saying that, no. You go with the call on the field there, which is interesting. I wonder if anybody will care about that. But who knows? Who cares? What I care about, Matt, is that KC Sports Network is here and you're not. What the heck? Why did they leave you at home? Why are you not here? Why did Tucker and BJ and Haley, how are they here and not you, man?
It's a fantastic question. We have so much travel this time of year. We were down in Dallas for the Shrine Bowl, and then got the draft coming up, the combine coming up. Kind of got to pick and choose the weekends. And one of these days, I do need to make it down to Radio Row. But this year, that was not in the cards for me to get back out of town, and it was probably a good thing because whole household was dealing with a little bit of stomach bug the whole time. So it would have been very bad to be out of town and leave the wife all alone with all the kids like that.
Yeah, that would be rough. My daughter is battling the flu this week, so I am going through that in like, oh no, she's back home and I'm here, and all that stuff. So I'm also Matt right here, and I'm about 6 feet away from Andre Reed, who's doing a quick TV interview right next to me right now. Andre Reed. So. I don't know what that really matters. I'm just saying that's just right here. Joe Burrow is about 20 feet to my left. George Kittle behind me. Just a lot of people that don't have Super Bowl rings around here. Is what I'm saying, Matt. That was unfair. There's no reason to do that. We're all having a good time today. All right, Matt. How do you break down this game? How do you view it? And is there anything at all to take away from 2 years ago, or is there just so much changeover and the way these two teams play, differently that it might as well be viewed as two separate teams almost?
Comparing it to the last Super Bowl, I guess there's not a lot of similarities. I think the crux of what both teams are is relatively similar, right? The Chiefs' offense still wants to be this short passing, yards after catch, ball control style of offense. Their defense is still the Steve Spagnuolo defense. It's going to create a lot of chaos with the different blitzes. They want to shut down the run game. When they go up against running quarterbacks, they kind of want to make running quarterbacks beat them with their legs rather than their arms. They're still the same general identity of a team, and the Eagles are the same, right? It's built through their defense and through their running game. They've added some different players. The talent levels maybe changed a little bit, but I think in general both teams want to play the same way. I just think there's been enough turnover to the rosters, the coaching staff, that there's not a whole lot to glean from that game in terms of how this one's going to play out.
Visiting with Matt Lane, you wrote about the Chiefs' offense and the ever-evolving Chiefs' offense throughout this year. What have you seen as to why it's gotten to the point that it is, and how much do you think it will continue to evolve in this game a few days from now, or have we seen sort of that culmination evolution of what they're looking like, and they'll just continue on that path?
Well, I think the Bills game was just kind of the perfect example. And you could translate that out over the entire year of what they did just in the Bills game. It's that's why it was a really good game from the offense, because they came out and they gave you something they hadn't really shown a lot of this year. They came out with just a bunch of RPOs, and there was something they saw on film with how the Buffalo Bills were playing RPOs, whether it was against the Ravens or all year long, that they said that the short end breakers, the slants, the glance throughout the juju, they knew all of that was going to be open with how the Bills were playing RPOs. And then they come out in the second drive and they kind of change. They have the turnover. But then after their second drive, they come back and they say, okay, we know what their adjustment's going to be to this. Now, instead of throwing the ball short and quick over the middle of the field, you're going to play soft coverage on the outside. You're going to play a little bit more bail coverage. You're not going to let us get deep as you add more buys in the middle of the field. Here, we're going to run a bunch of speed outs. We're just going to run a bunch of quick little hitches on the outside and pick up 8 to 10 yards for free because you're not challenging our wide receivers on the boundaries at all. So, and then after that, they go into the second half. Third quarter's not great. Then they come out, they run the ball, they get the QB run involved. And to end the game, they kind of go into the man beaters because at that point in time, the Bills had transitioned almost entirely to trying to play man coverage. It's just going throughout the game, you see kind of how Andy Reid's mind works and Patrick Mahomes' mind works. And here's this idea on how we can attack the opposing team we're going against. And then once they adjust, here's our playoff of it. And then once they adjust to that, here's another way we can attack them. And then we can keep changing and adjusting throughout the entire game. It's just it's impressive how the Chiefs can do that within a single game, let alone a whole year. And I think this is kind of what makes them so dangerous in the playoffs is we just saw a singular game where they ran 4 or 5 different offensive identities for different drives. And that's just really hard to plan for if you're an opposing defense.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Changing from drive to drive is an interesting way of presenting it, and I think that's where we saw you talk about drive to drive, and I've sort of been focusing on game to game. So I'm glad that you broke it down that way as more of the minutia, more of the micro instead of the macro. I'm looking at these two games. The Texans played a lot of zone. Travis Kelce got his. The Bills played a lot of man to man. They wanted to limit Travis Kelce. Okay, here's Xavier Worthy, Juju. Here's Hollywood a little bit as well. They had different answers for that. Do you have a guess as to what we'll see from the Eagles? If it'll be man, if it'll be zone, will they try to attack Travis Kelce? Will it be keeping those guys over the middle in check, or will they worry about man to man or zone? How do you think they'll go about playing it?
Vic Fangio typically runs his stuff. He's one of the defensive coordinators, like Steve Spagnuolo. Now, Steve Spagnuolo throws a little bit more out there, right? He's got a little bit more of a kitchen sink approach than Fangio does. But, those two guys are going to do what they do. Spags is going to blitz, and if you beat him, that's fine. He's going to blitz some more. Fangio is going to play too high. He's going to keep everything in front of him, and he's going to have his players rely on their fundamentals and their technique and stuff like that, and that's what he's going to do. I don't foresee him throwing massive curveballs. Will they maybe sprinkle in some more man coverage on certain third down distances? Sure. Will they maybe blitz a little bit more than they have in the past? Yeah, they might. But I think the big thing to note is he's not a type of guy that likes to get out of his comfort zone. So I anticipate seeing a lot of zone coverage. It's going to be a lot of quarters. It's going to be a lot of quarter, half coverage. They're going to play this soft shell coverage over the top, trying to take away the deep ball, and have what is, I think, the fourth best tackling team in the open field come up and make plays short of the sticks. Well, that plays into what the Chiefs want to do, though. That plays into how the Chiefs' offense functions. They would love to take the 5-yard pass over and over again all the way down the field. They have a quarterback who continuously makes the right reads and gets the ball out at the right time to his playmakers in those scenarios. So this is the one team that you maybe don't have a great matchup for this for. So we'll see if he changes stuff up. Looking back at, Washington, the Rams, the Packers just in the playoffs here, it didn't seem like they had a lot of curveballs ready for those games. Some one-off plays, but the general scheme was the same. So I anticipate we get much of the same from their defense.
Yeah, and these are the two teams. I was looking it up. The yards after catch over expected. So the higher ranked team you are means you limit that. You're the best at it. So yards after catch over expected for these teams. The Chiefs are first. The Eagles are second. I mean, they don't give up yards after catch. You make the catch, they tackle you. They are so sound. You talk about the tackling team for the Eagles. Chiefs viewed as the best tackling team out there, and these teams do not give up yards after catch because, as you said, the Eagles will keep it in front. And then fundamentally they will come up and they will tackle. So that's going to be an interesting thing to see how the Chiefs do it because, yards after catch, getting guys out in space hasn't necessarily been something that has worked against the Eagles, but how they run these things against the shell and the soft coverages that has been successful for the Chiefs. So it's going to be interesting if there's a play in the secondary where there's a bust or a guy doesn't make the tackle and there's 20, 30 more yards, like a Juju Smith-Schuster or Travis Kelce these last couple of weeks where the tackle wasn't made and it just busted open.
Yeah, and the Eagles have been fantastic at tackling, but here in the playoffs, that is where teams have had the most success going at them is with the quick passing game. And you're not getting explosive plays. They're not missing a ton of tackles. I still think, their yards after the catch, expectation is one of the better of the teams that are up in the playoffs. They've seen a bunch of dropbacks, so the total number is kind of high, but generally speaking, per play, it's pretty good, but that's still where teams are having more success. And, getting the quick passes out also nullifies a pass rush that has taken over for stretches of games for this Eagles team. So I do think that's a lot of what you get. I will say the Chiefs are pretty better than just about any other team in the NFL at getting their receivers the ball in the open field with space to run. That is what the entire offense is designed around. So you're going to give, Worthy the ball out in the open field and say, hey, he's faster than everybody else. And now we have him, this advantageous look or leverage with the ball in his hand. How quickly can you bring him down? Because if it's an 8-yard gain, that's still a win for us. We still will take that. Or now all of a sudden you can look at what Zach Ertz did to them in their last game against the Commanders. you're going to give all that space over the middle of the field because you're trying so hard to play to protect the deep ball. Travis Kelce can live over there too. And while he's not the same athlete he once was, we've seen in the playoffs, even though he seems to be moving at like half speed, he seems to be able to find a knack to find that extra space. I do think the Chiefs will be able to find some success getting some yards after the catch in the short passing game. It's just a matter of, do the Eagles come out and play a little bit more man to throw that off? And if they do, how good are they at it? Because if you're a predominantly zone team and try to start playing a bunch of man coverage, that doesn't always work well, especially against a team like the Chiefs that are very good with their man-beating concepts. How well are you going to pass everything off and communicate? Sometimes it's better to execute what you already know very well, even if it's not the perfect plan.
Visiting with Matt Lane. All right, Matt, what do you think happens in this game, and if you have a score prediction in mind?
Yeah, the more I go through it, it's just I think the Eagles are a very good team, and if you're going to build a team on paper that is going to present a problem for this Chiefs team, you're going to want them to run the ball and control it with good offensive line, constant positive plays. You're going to have a defense that doesn't give up big plays, that gets pressure with 4. Like, this is what the Philadelphia Eagles are, but then you look at how they do those things, and it's not a great – it feels like it's a pretty good matchup for the Chiefs. The Chiefs want to throw – we talked about it. The Chiefs want to throw the ball short. The Eagles like to give those up. On the other side of the ball, the Eagles want to run the football. Well, Spags has traditionally done a pretty good job when teams want to sell out and run the ball and live through, controlling the game that way. He hasn't let up a 100-yard rusher in his Chiefs tenure in the playoffs. So it feels like a pretty good matchup for the Chiefs. I think they get out kind of early in this game and just control it. Maybe it's not a blowout or anything like that, but I think they kind of control the Super Bowl. No, not as much drama as years past. Give me the Chiefs winning this one 30-25 in a game that kind of gets close late in the fourth quarter, but maybe isn't that close all the way through.
All right, we'll see what happens. Matt Lane, KC Sports Network. Matt, you're the man. Appreciate it as always. Enjoy the game coming up this weekend, and we'll catch up soon, brother.
Thank you for having me on. Enjoy the rest of your time in New Orleans, and go Chiefs.
Absolutely. There's Matt Lane, KC Sports Network. We will take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We'll talk with Adam Teicher coming up next. Our coverage here on Radio Row presented by the CW Farm and Ranch Venue, Adams Toyota Lease Summit, Made in KC, and McGregor's Butcher and Bistro. More Zone right after this. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. We head up until 2 o'clock. Let's talk some NFL football with our Chiefs insider from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. It is Adam Teicher joining us. Adam, how are you, sir?
Good, Jason. How you doing today?
I am doing just fine. Is this this week? Does it feel the same as the last couple? Is there anything different to this week that you've seen as we're getting closer and closer, and finally these media appearances are sort of in the rearview mirror a little bit?
Chiefs are going for a three-peat. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
that is different than last year. You're right.
Yeah, and there is a little bit of a sameness to all this. I guess that's what happens when the team you cover goes to the Super Bowl every year, and so there is a little bit of a sameness and familiarity with all the questions, and you can anticipate what's coming and all that.
Yeah.
So there's some of that.
How do you think that impacts this particular team then in some of that? Because I thought it was interesting. Hollywood Brown on opening night, I asked him about, do you feel like a rookie or a freshman in college that, you've been in the league a while, but these guys are like, oh, Hollywood, let me tell you about this. And he goes, yeah, everybody knows exactly what's going on. He's like, they even knew to bring an extra pair of socks because of this over there. Like, they made sure that I knew to bring socks. He's like, who thinks of things like that? Like, those small little things, I do wonder how much that can be an advantage the week leading up to it. Not necessarily on Sunday, but just understanding what's next and what's next.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that Super Bowl experience helps. It doesn't win you the game, but it helps. The Chiefs are old. They know about this routine here, and even the younger guys know about this routine. Now there's rookies and guys who've never been to the Super Bowl. They're a little bit new to it, but most of the players know the routine. They know how to handle it. They know what questions are coming and how to handle them and not create any controversy. So, I think it definitely helps. And the Chiefs, of all teams, are so good about blocking out all the outside stuff, maybe letting in the stuff that they feel like they can use as fuel, like, well, there's a conspiracy against You've heard about that, right? There's a conspiracy.
Do you think they've heard about it?
Yeah, they've heard about it and probably talked about it, yes.
Yeah.
When Travis Kelce says the one thing he wants to ask the media is why they're leaning into this referee conspiracy, they're bothered by this.
I love that answer from Travis, by the way. It's a great question. I understand why Joe Schmo on Twitter leans into it, but why is the tail wagging the dog? Why are you leaning into it? It's a great question by Travis. I'd love to know the answer too.
Yeah, well, I feel like a lot of the responsible media just sort of lets that wash away and go out with the day's trash and all that stuff.
I'm with you on that one. Adam Teicher is our guest, and as this week has gone along, getting closer and closer to the game. Andy Reid talking about as healthy as they've been all year. I know Rashee Rice is out, but, last year Joe Thuney didn't play in the game. Omenihu had torn his ACL the week before. Like, we were talking about different issues with the Chiefs in injury. Again, Rice has been out since week 4, but this is as healthy as I'd have to go back to a couple of years ago or whatever. I don't even know, but this is as healthy as I can remember a team this late in the season that the Chiefs are right now.
Yeah, this is about as good as you can ask for.
Yeah.
Yes, you'd love to have Rashee Rice, but they don't, and they knew that a long time ago.
Yeah.
They got Watson back. They got Omenihu back. They got Pacheco back.
Hollywood back.
Yeah, Hollywood Brown. I forgot about him. Yeah. So they've done – in that regard, they kind of weathered the storm, so to speak, and I feel like they're going to be in pretty good shape in that regard. When you can pick from your entire 53 and the remaining players on IR are fairly slim, you're okay. You're in pretty good shape.
Yep. Adam Teicher is our guest from ESPN. He is presented by Twin Peaks. And as we get ready for this game, I know that there's a lot of talk about, Saquon Barkley and things like that. One of the things that I've sort of been interested in is, how do the Chiefs avoid a slower start? Because that has been something that has happened in all of these Super Bowls. Even if you eliminate the Bucs, they're trailing at halftime or trail in all these games and finding a way to come back. I don't know that this Eagles team would make it as conducive to have a 10-point comeback with Saquon and running the ball and trying to limit as many possessions as they can.
Well, I feel like with him, if he's going to have 100 yards, 120 yards, okay, but make him earn it.
Yeah.
Make him carry the ball 25 or more times to get those 120 yards or 100 yards. But if he's going to go off on these 60, 70-yard runs that he's been seemingly getting one or two of every week now, boy, that's real trouble for the Chiefs. They can't fight fire with fire. They're not a big, as we know, they're not a big play team. They can't make up for that in just like that, bang, bang. That's very hard for them to do. So it's a dilemma for the Chiefs. Well, how do you handle this? I mean, you remember in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Goddard had 20 catches for 200 and some yards. I mean, if you combine that with a big day from Saquon Barkley, forget about it. I mean, it's over. So I don't know what Steve Spagnuolo has in his bag of tricks here, but it's going to be interesting to find out what they prioritize.
It's funny because, like, the last time the Chiefs have played a game where 3 different receivers had at least 60 yards receiving was the Super Bowl against the Eagles and those 3 guys you mentioned.
Yep.
And so, I mean, we saw it happen in that game, and they had to score 38 points to get there. I'm not sure that this team is scoring 38 points on Sunday against a better defense than what that Eagles team threw out there 2 years ago.
No, we used to talk in terms of in the old days well, not the old days, but the early Mahomes days, once the score got to a certain point, the Chiefs were going to win. And I feel like the opposite is true in this game. Once the score gets to a certain point, whatever that is, I feel like this is the Eagles game. Yeah.
How many points do you think if it gets into a shootout? This is just a random question, and that's just probably throwing a dart. But how many points, if it gets to a back and forth, do you think the Chiefs could win if it gets to a certain level? Is it 30? Is it 33, 32, 28? Like, what in your mind, what is it to where the Chiefs have to limit the Eagles to?
It would be somewhere in that range. I mean, they got 32 against Buffalo, which was a season high. I mean, I think that's probably about as good as you can ask for against a defense the quality of the Eagles. So if this thing's going to get into the mid-30s, I think the Eagles are going to be waving goodbye. So the Chiefs have to find a way, and I think they will, to keep that score down.
The Adam Teicher is our guest. One of the matchups that's going to be really interesting to pay attention to and watch is Trey Smith and Jalen Carter, and seeing how Jalen Carter is utilized by the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is just essentially, if there's a play on defense, he's the left defensive tackle. Like, that's really it. It's like 989 snaps at left defensive tackle and 29 snaps at literally anywhere else on the field. So it is not like the Eagles are going to say, ooh, Caliendo's right there, let's move Jalen Carter over there. Because Caliendo isn't the first weak link in an offensive line the Eagles have gone up against. And they've kept Jalen Carter right where he is. And that means there's going to be a lot on the shoulders of Trey Smith in this game, that he's going to, if he wants that big contract, this is a great game to go out and earn it.
Oh, no doubt about it. And that is going to be a great matchup. But, Vic Fangio, you're right. I mean, they have not done that with Jalen Carter. That doesn't mean they won't, though.
Yeah. That would be breaking tendency.
It sure would. But and I wouldn't expect it either.
Yeah.
But
that would be, the breaking tendency is a great way. Like in the Super Bowl, it's like, okay, they aren't scouting for Jalen Carter over. They're thinking Milton Williams or Jordan Davis at this spot, and now it's Jalen Carter against Caliendo.
Yeah, but you're right. Trey Smith can make himself a lot of money with the big game on Sunday, no doubt.
If he has a big game, would the Chiefs be willing to pay that money for Trey Smith? Because we're seeing different teams and how good they are with their interior defensive linemen. It's just, there's some real questions in the offseason after this game that we'll get into with Reed. Well, you and I won't get into, Adam, but with Reed and Bolton and Trey Smith, and just different decisions. And when do you extend Trent and George Karlaftis this offseason? Like, this feels like, okay, you're getting to the three-peat, but there's going to be another sort of maybe directional change, that maybe even semi-directional change, not like the Tyreek Hill, where some real tough decisions are going to be made this offseason.
I mean, with the money they've got in Juwan Taylor and Joe Thuney and Creed Humphrey, I just don't see how I don't see that would be a wise use of their resources. I just don't see. Trey Smith's a great player. You hate to see him go if you're the Chiefs. That's a tough one. Yeah. But, theoretically, you will get a comp pick back in 2026 for that signing, theoretically. And, it's interesting. Again, we can go into more of this detail after the next week and beyond. But Brett Veach said something when I was talking to him a couple weeks ago. He said, this year, our free agency is going to be our draft, meaning between a tight cap space and the fact they want to whittle away at their own list of free agents and maybe get as many of those guys re-signed as they can. I think what he was saying there was, any help they get from the outside for next year is going to come from rookies.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't want to give up any of their top 3 round draft picks. All 4 of those picks, they were not willing to part with it for Mo Lattimore or anyone else.
Yeah.
Because they knew what was coming down the road, and I think the Chiefs' way of handling that is spectacular. I really do.
They have been disciplined. I will
Yes.
say that, and that's the one thing that we've talked about is that they have stuck to their guns, and they did that with Tyreek Hill. They did that with Orlando Brown. They did that with Tyrann Mathieu. Like, they have been in these positions to where this is as far as we're going to go on this, and if we can't work out something, then we will pivot and we'll go in a different direction. And it served them well, and so there's no reason when you've got the proof in the pudding to then change that direction this offseason and think, well, no, now we got to panic. We got to panic pay now after winning 3 in a row or going to 5 Super Bowls in 6 years. It would be even more evidence to stick with the plan.
Yeah, and we've seen them outbid teams for free agents, outside free agents, many times. But how many of their own have they gone above and beyond for? Chris Jones. Not Travis Kelce, because certainly Travis Kelce could have got more out there. Not Pat Mahomes, because certainly he could have gotten more out there. So it would be very unlike the Chiefs to say, you know what, Trey Smith, you're going to get a record contract for an interior offensive lineman. We'll pay that. That would be unlike them to do that in this case.
Visiting with Adam Teicher from ESPN, Andy Reid went ahead and decided to get rid of all the conversation in the offseason about retiring by just saying he's going to be back again. How many more do you think he has in him?
I talked to Clark Hunt about that, and he and I are in agreement. It's hard to see the end right now. You never know about health things and family things. Those issues aside, if something like that pops up, I think he'll coach another 3 years. I mean, this is why coaches get into the coaching business, for situations like this. And to walk away from a situation like this, why would he do that? And it's not like Andy Reid has a whole lot of outside interests. He's not a golfer.
Yeah.
He's not a fisher. He's not a hunter. He likes playing with his grandkids, but he can do that kind of while he's still working. So I don't see it. I really don't. I mean, I just cannot see him walking away from a situation like this.
He's a historian, and he loves the game, but he has said that, those numbers and the wins, it doesn't really matter to him, and he's just wanting to teach and be around the game. As he gets, within maybe distance to where you can reach out and touch it, does it matter then to him?
Yeah, certainly the situation can change. But for now, I really believe him. Of all the coaches I've come across, no one loves the non-game day process like Andy Reid.
Yeah, you're right.
He loves leading men and drawing up plays and putting together playbooks and game plans and coaching players, teaching players. He loves all that stuff more than anybody else. That doesn't mean the wins and losses aren't important or game day's not important, because that's not true. But he just loves the other 345 days or whatever it is per year. He loves those as much as any other coach.
I think if he retired, he would still be creating plays, but just giving them to Matt Nagy or whoever his coaching tree is.
He'd be bugging whoever coaches the Chiefs forever.
You're bugging Tammy.
And bugging Pat Mahomes. Hey, take this to Nagy.
Try this one.
Yeah.
That's right. Whoever the Chiefs
Nagy's
coaches.
not answering the phone. Take this to him.
It's Andy again. Jeez Louise. I mean, come on.
I got to block that guy.
Andy, stop it. All right? I got it. You got a cool play for me. Let it go, man.
So I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either. And Travis Kelce said, was asked, where do you see yourself in 3 years? Like, playing football, hopefully. I don't know that I believe that as much as Andy Reid wanting to be around a while. It's just...
Well, there's some realities that go with that situation that don't go with the coaching situation.
Yes.
And I've run across many people who played for the Chiefs over the years who were convinced they were going to play until they were 40 or whatever. And none of them made it there. Yeah. So I remember a wide receiver the Chiefs had by the name of Johnny Morton in the Vermeil years, and he claimed he didn't need anything. He kept himself immaculate. He told me, I'm going to play till I'm 45. Well, he didn't even make it to 35. Yeah. So it happens quickly. Yeah. It's not like it's a gradual thing a lot of times. So we'll see with him, but I think that's his intention right now with Kelce.
Do you think he'll play past this contract? because he's got one more year left on it?
Yeah, I think at this point, you're year to year. You know, you have to see. And if you're the Chiefs, do you want to invest big money in a 30? What's he going to be? He's going to be almost 37
Almost
at that
30,
point.
Yeah, at that point.
I just can't see that at that point. You know, it might be time for where they say, listen, we just can't do it anymore. But
is there a percentage? Is there a percentage chance he walks away after this one on Sunday?
I still think so. Yes. I mean, you know, I think he will really miss the game day, and he knows he's well aware that he can't. He's got all this stuff lined up that he could do if he wants, and that's great. But that won't give him the rush that football gives him, and he knows that. He's well aware of that.
You're not ever going to be in the locker room when you're around a TV or a movie set. You know, you're not going to be out there on the field doing those things and giving you that because the camera's rolling and they say action and you've got to go and do that. There's something different when you tell the story of Travis Kelce and what he's like on the field. It is hard to think about what life will be like for him if he hangs it up to where he would get that sort of same feel that he has his whole life.
You can't do it. And if you walk away now, you're never coming back.
Yeah.
So it's either now or never for that. And he knows that.
Yep. Adam Teicher is our guest from ESPN, presented by Twin Peaks. As you look at the matchup, Chiefs offense versus the Eagles defense, or the Chiefs defense versus the Eagles offense, which one do you think will play a bigger role in deciding the outcome of this game?
Chiefs defense versus Eagles offense. I feel pretty strongly that way. We already talked about the dilemma that the Chiefs have, Barkley or the passing game. What do you do? And there's a good offensive line we haven't talked about there.
Yeah.
So it's a dilemma. I really am curious to see what Steve Spagnuolo cooks up and how he handles that and how the Chiefs do. Again, we talked about keeping the score down. If the Chiefs can keep this thing in the mid, maybe even upper 20s, I think they've got a real shot at winning the game. But if it gets much beyond that, then I don't know.
Can the Chiefs get out to a lead that's sizable enough to where they can then dictate to the Eagles, knowing how good the Eagles' defense is? So it's not like, I'll just go out there and take a lead. Just play from in front, Chiefs, and you'll be fine. But easier said than done. They could have done that against the Bills, but they decide not to do that, Adam.
Maybe in this conspiracy thought that maybe the league will spot them a 14-point lead off the bat. Chiefs will start, and it'll be 14-0.
Tell you what, watching the game would be a lot easier on Sunday.
I'm going to watch the scoreboard right at the start to make sure it's 0-0. I'm just telling you.
If it actually says.
But yeah, always playing for the lead it's always a thing, and that maybe makes the Eagles a little more one-dimensional, and certainly that'll help out if they can do that. I mean, I don't recommend getting down 10 points again like they've been doing, but they've for the most, other than the Tampa Bay game, they've made that work.
With the Eagles' offensive line, do you think the Chiefs will be able to pressure Jalen Hurts in this one?
Yeah, I think they will. They've done a nice job in the last few weeks of getting pressure, and I know the 8 sacks came against Houston, which has a patchwork offensive line, so maybe you throw that one out a little bit. But I think they've put more of an emphasis on rushing the quarterback. You know that the Chiefs started off really well stopping the run, and that's gone backwards a little bit lately, but the pass rush at the same time has increased. So I think the Chiefs have put a little more emphasis on one as opposed to the other, and we're seeing the results here.
I have a little more confidence that they can rush the passer after the Bills game, because coming out of that Houston game, it was, that offensive line is terrible. 8 sacks. They had like a 56% pressure rate. Like, it was absurd. Most pressure that C.J. Stroud's faced all year. Like, it was awful.
Yeah.
The Bills are different. The Bills protect Josh Allen. The Chiefs hadn't sacked Josh Allen in the last 2 games, had 0 sacks. And then they pressure Josh Allen 50% of his dropbacks, and they get 2 sacks in the game. And so that gives me a little more confidence, because the Bills' offensive line is good. Eagles' offensive line is good. Neither of them are the Houston Texans, but they still were able to generate pressure against Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think so. And I have a lot of trust in Spagnuolo's ability to find some weakness there and take advantage of it at the right moment. I mean, we saw it last week. And, whether I believe that or not is immaterial. To me, the important thing is I think the players just have completely bought in. They believe anything he calls is going to work, and they play that way. And it really was, particularly the last 2 weeks in the playoffs, has really been a fun thing to see.
Do you think he's going to get a head coaching job again?
No, I don't.
I don't either.
I don't think so. I think you remember Dave Tobe was getting some interviews for 4 or 5 years ago now, and I just think you get a time, and if you don't get one at your time, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Matt Nagy will be a head coach again someday. but I don't think so for Steve Spagnuolo.
Adam Teicher's our guest. He's presented by Twin Peaks from ESPN. All right, Adam, how do you think the game plays out, and if you have a score in mind for Sunday?
Yeah, I see a close game. I think it'll be another one of these one-score games that we're talking about, and I think if you look at 2 through 53, the Eagles have the better roster. I think they have the better team, but the Chiefs have the better quarterback and the better head coach. And I don't think we should dismiss this ability to get things done when they really need to. I mean, it's not going to ever be perfect, but I don't think you need to say, well, that's luck or it's not going to happen all the time. I think they just have that. Some teams just have that knack. So I'll go with the Chiefs. How about 27-24?
That's what I have.
Is that right? Well,
I have 27-24 Chiefs.
Okay.
I think, and I don't know how they get there. Probably 24-24, and Butker kicks a field goal as time expires. I mean, something along those lines. But I do think the Butker and kicking game is because the Eagles have had a shakier go about it with the kicking game than the Chiefs have this year.
And one of my guys, I think, if you're looking for a hero from the non-Mahomes, Chris Jones, Kelsey list, Nico Remigio. I think he's done a really nice job. I don't know what they were waiting for to promote him off the practice squad to do this, but he's made a difference, and I'm got my eye on him for a guy who could be a difference maker on Sunday as well.
Shout out Dylan Michaels for this one. The in New Orleans, a guy with the special teamer plays that was named MVP of the game and wore number 81 was Desmond Howard in the Super Bowl. 81 special teams, New Orleans.
There
MVP.
it is. There it is.
Thanks for that's what I'm saying is place money on Remigio to be Super Bowl MVP because
there's dumber picks than that. Let me put it that way.
I mean, if he has a couple of big ones that you just don't know, so we'll find out. Adam, as always, appreciate the time, sir. Enjoy the game coming up, and hopefully next week we are talking about a parade and a Super Bowl celebration and a three-peat for this team. Thank you, man.
Either way, there's going to be a lot to talk about for sure.
No doubt about it. Adam Teicher from ESPN Chiefs Insider, presented by Twin Peaks. We continue More Zone next. Have you played Pick 6 from DraftKings? If not, well, then you better get on it because it is Super Bowl 59 and the last time to play NFL Pick 6 this season as the official daily fantasy sports partner of the NFL. DraftKings does fantasy sports like no one else. You play for better payouts on Pick 6. Super easy to get started. Select 2 or more players. Choose if they'll have more or less of a stat like touchdowns, yardage, sacks, and more. And DraftKings is making it even sweeter for first-timers because new Pick 6 customers play $5. You're going to get $59 in Pick 6 credits. You win more cash on Pick 6. So download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code 810WHB. That's code 810WHB for new customers to play $5 and get $59 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. One Purdue customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
The holidays are over, and now it's time to start paying off your bills. Paymore is the best place to turn your old electronics into cold, hard cash. If you've got some new electronics over the holidays, great. Bring in the old ones and turn them into cash right away at Paymore. They include a free data wipe, whether they purchase or recycle your old tech. Paymore now has 2 locations, 135th in Antioch and Overland Park, and 1415 Douglas.
Row Super Bowl 59 coming up. We're in New Orleans, and right now sitting down with us is Jeff Saturday from ESPN joining us. Jeff, how are you, sir? Oh, let me turn on your mic. How about that? That'd probably be better.
Can you hear me now?
Just yell really loud.
Really like screaming so it gets on my mic. I'm doing fantastic, man. Been a great day, and started up early at Get Up and Sports Center, and now we're cranking through the afternoon.
How long you doing the car wash thing around here?
This is it. You're my last one, and then I got more sports. I got 2 p.m. and those kind of things, so I go back to the TV side of it. So radio side, I've been here for a couple hours, and it's always where you see everybody.
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's so much fun running into a ton of teammates and friends, and it's always always good. Dude.
Unlike the old saying, this is last and least. So thank you for that. We appreciate that, Jeff. Jeff Saturday is our guest. So I've been asking some people from a national perspective, like, what's your feel of the interest in this game from whether it's a national field or even national analysts, the interest in this game. Obviously, it's the biggest one. It's the Super Bowl, but it feels like it's the matchup that was wanted the least from a lot of people.
Which is crazy to me. This is my favorite. I've told people, Mad Dog and I do stuff on First Take together, and he was all complaining. I was like, you've lost your mind. We have a chance for a three-peat. Or we have a chance for the first time since Terry Bradshaw Day that a team, the Philadelphia Eagles, would win the Super Bowl by running more than throwing. Like, two incredibly historic. They played 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. I mean, it is the two best teams. Like, I love the way these teams got here. I love the way they've stuck to who they are. The Chiefs never changed. The how many points they're winning, point differential isn't good enough. All the nonsense that I had to listen to. I was like, you know what their identity is? The Chiefs' identity is freaking winning games, bro. That's what their identity is. Like, you can always try to take shots, but for me, I think this is an insane matchup. Man, I'm fired up for it.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we had, around Kansas City, we had heard it a lot about how this Chiefs team was playing, and they were winning close games, whether it was luck or fortune or refs, whatever you want to call it. You've been on it all year about, no, this team just knows how to win. Like, stop with the BS and their frauds and all that. Stop. They're back-to-back Super Bowl champions, and they're winning games. Why are we questioning what's going on?
It's such a disrespectful comment, right? I hated the way that people would have these conversations. Like, a blocked field goal is a fluke. That's not a fluke, y'all. That's freaking hard work. Like that they set up special teams, and they're the better special teams team, right? Which, again, will probably be what Sunday. It may come down to us, and if it does, it'll lean towards Kansas City, right? Like this is there's no fluke in football. It is preparation, it's execution, and the thing about the Chiefs are, in the moment that it matters, they find a way to execute. And so, yeah, I'll never diminish how they've won, how they play. The way that Mahomes goes about his business, he's probably the most team quarterback and just win quarterback that I've ever heard. Never talks about accolades, MVPs, any of that nonsense. Never even hear a blip out of him, dude. It's let's go win. That's all he cares about. And his teammates, they love him and play for him. And so I think the best two got here, and I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Jeff Saturday is our guest from ESPN. You played with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Peyton Manning. And playing with the Hall of Fame quarterback, how quick can you see that this guy is different, that there's something special from this player?
Right away. I mean, right away. Like, you just see the decision making. You see the process they go through, and now it's not all going to go as well as it did for Mahomes because he hit the jackpot, right? Like, they were already a playoff team when they decided to let go of Alex Smith and they bring him in. And so his team is good, and they were loaded offensively. Then you've seen kind of the transition, right? Now their defense is kind of their calling card or whatever. But I'm telling you, watching Jaden Daniels, and people have attacked me online because I said he's probably the 5th or 6th best quarterback in the NFL right now. Because they're young doesn't mean they can't, because their decisions, what they do, the plays Mahomes was making as a freaking, and even the Super Bowl they lost. And I was in Tampa. I watched that game, right? So I watched the Tampa Super Bowl, and he was still the best player, right? He still played an insanely good game. He was just getting crushed. But it's when you see those dudes, it looks different. And so I appreciate the talent, but I appreciate the way they go about their business and the decisions they make that don't put their teams in position to lose.
How much Jeff Saturday is our guest. One of the things that I've loved about watching Patrick Mahomes over the years, and a Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, these great quarterbacks that are incredibly cerebral and do things a little bit differently. But one thing that they all have in common is when they get up to the line of scrimmage, they have the answers to the test.
Amen.
And you working directly with Peyton Manning.
Yes.
How much, I mean, obviously it's prep work, it's studying, but how much is it maybe just a natural sort of like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, like, it's like Beethoven, I could always just play. Like, I see how the defense is doing that. Is there sort of that natural element to it? How much can be honed and taught and worked to get to that point?
And let me tell you, the difference is, because the way you described it is perfect, but I'm going to add to it. It's the manipulation of that. That's the difference, right? When he walks up to the line of scrimmage, they could have 7 different plays called, right? And that's what we did in Indy, right? You walk up, and it was, this play would be good, but this play is going to be the difference maker. And him understanding in the moment, using the P-Ryan, the third down conversion, 3rd and 9. And they're running. They got a man coverage, so they're going to run 3 across. It's going to bump the linebacker. Did he knew that play? That play is called in that moment matters. That the manipulation of that is what separates the great from the elite, and that's where Patrick Mahomes is, right? Is that he trusts I'm gonna dump it down to a running back coming out of the backfield on a 3rd and 9, bro. And it doesn't matter if it's Watson in the back of the end zone or if it's Pierre. Every player is always available, and that's the great ones, man. It doesn't always have to go to your best guy. It can go to someone else who's going to be open because of the design of the play, and it's special. And I played with a special man. I remember Manning. We go to the line of scrimmage, and we talk about it all week from Monday to Saturday. Hey, put me in this protection. I know you don't understand why, but here's what I like. I like moving it over here because I'm gonna take this safety and move him with my eyes, and this will come open. I don't worry about the pressure coming from there. That takes for me, I walk up to the line of scrimmage, it's already in my brain. Wow. Done. I'm going to new mic it over here. I'm going to put our protection right here. And you shrink the amount of time and discussion necessary to be efficient, and that's what Mahomes does day in, day out.
Being the novice of watching these things, it doesn't seem very often that Mahomes and Creed Humphrey and the protections get it wrong. How many times, if ever, did you and Peyton sort of, they got us on that one.
Yeah.
We read it wrong.
You know what's funny is very rarely, but I will say we were playing the Jets in a playoff game at home, and Bart Scott, I remember they blitzed him, and I blew it. I thought I wouldn't have. I'd have bet my house he wasn't coming, and so I slid the protection to the sideline. He's right in the middle, and the ball is snapped, and Bart comes through untouched, unscathed, right? And Manning, as soon as he catches it, he knows, he just lays down, goes straight fetal, right? He's not going to take a shot, and so Bart goes over there, just barely touches him with his finger. But fast forward, that same game, we're on like the 25-yard line going in, and they run the same blitz, and we pick it up and win. We throw a touchdown to win. But I saw the difference, and we talked about it on the sideline. He's like, oh, no, here's why. And so it doesn't happen often when they get you. Hey, you take it on the chin and learn and adapt to it, and the next one we caught them and ended up winning the game that way.
And how much was that coaches or how much of the players are like, this is what we're seeing? Yeah.
No, we came to the sideline. We see the pictures, and he's like, well, let me show you
the
why.
Pictures, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have the tablet?
No, I wish. And he was like, no, let me show you why, right? The safety's over here. The coverage is rocked this way, so it wouldn't let this guy come, right? And so in my world, I just didn't see that. He saw it. He knew it was coming. He knew he had blown it. Like I said, he literally just went in the fetal position, took the sack, lived to play the next play, but we moved the ball down, and we burned him on it. And he's like, it's going to come back. They're going to run it again thinking they got us. And he's like, we'll mic it to the right guy, and we did it and executed and won.
It's interesting because against the Atlanta Falcons earlier this year, the Falcons, and Nick Bolton talked about this, as the middle linebacker, the quarterback of the defense, the guy who Spags absolutely loves.
Yes.
He'll be a free agent. We'll see if the Chiefs are going to re-sign him, but I know Spags is going to want him back. But against the Falcons, they scored a touchdown earlier in the game on a handoff to Bijan Robinson at the goal line. And Nick Bolton talked about after the game that he misread it, and he had people going, to the left, and Bijan was going to the left. So the defense is right, and it was wide open touchdown. Yes. That 4th and 1 where the Chiefs stuffed Bijan Robinson, it was the same play. And Nick Bolton said, I knew it. I saw the formation. I saw the motion. I saw it. We went to the right. And that's why there were 3 guys in the backfield waiting for Bijan Robinson to get the stop. And it was like, they knew the cadence or whatever. It was like Nick Bolton said after the game, they ran the same play. They got us the first time.
That's right.
But I saw it, and we're going this way, and blew it up, and they won the game.
Yeah, football IQ, right? And again, that's not coaching. The coaches gave you the right call to begin with, right? But you don't always put it the right way. But that football IQ and that intelligence, that's what carries and makes plays. And I'm telling you, that's the difference. That's the identity that the Chiefs carry. They find ways to win. Again, tough play, 4th and short, whatever it is, but we're going to make the play because we're going to make the right call at the right moment. That's the difference.
Is it different? Jeff Saturday's our guest from ESPN. Is it different or difficult with, Spags is getting a lot of credit as he deserves for what he's been doing as a defensive coordinator. As a guy who's calling out those protections and you and Peyton working together, what Spagnuolo does, why does it seem more unique to him than maybe some other DCs?
Well, he saves a lot of his stuff, right? So he'll give you a similar look and then give you different peels off of it. it. And so, like for example, the last play in the Bills game where they get pressure and they hit you, like I saw that from my couch. I was like, there's no way by the way that the coverage was, they were bringing it from somewhere else, but. Spags could have brought an A-gap blitz and then bailed one of the guys or bailed the opposite A-gap guy, and he could have bailed. So it's a little iffy, but again, he's willing to do it in that moment, right? And like I tell people, there has to be signals in your brain as an offensive lineman when you get to a logo that he's going to bring a blitz, or fourth and must have, he's going to bring a blitz. Like, coordinators are built a certain way. It doesn't matter if they're offense, defense. We all have the things that we're going to live and die by. He's going to live and die by. And that corner blitz, by God, if it's wrong, it's a touchdown. It ain't wrong often though, bro. Like, he gets home and it is Hunt's. I mean, and so I respect the heck out of the way he plays, and that he'll do it in the run and pass. That's the other part I love about it. Because if Josh would have tried to run that ball, it's as good, it's as effective as a run stopper as it is a pass play. So, he puts you in a good position even when he does blitz you.
Jeff Saturday is our guest, and with that blitz and with that play, O'Cyrus Torrence for the Bills talked about, and I've loved these quotes from him, because talking about that particular play, what kind of dilemma as an offensive line and calling out the protection, sliding it one way or another, what kind of dilemma does Chris Jones put you in? Because O'Cyrus Torrence said, we slid it left, so we've got 4 hands on Chris now.
That's right.
If we slide it right and they don't come and we're wrong, Chris is now one-on-one. He's got 2 hands, and now what do you do? Now we're the dummies that had one-on-one with Chris Jones.
Correct. Yeah. It's can't be rights, right? And that's why he does it. But that's why Spags puts Jones on the other side. So if they do slide, you still have a matchup to win. We always said no free runners, right? For Manning, it was like, we're not going to give any free runners. And maybe the Bills look at it a little different. They're like, hey, one free runner, Josh is going to make him miss, and we'll let him beat you with his legs, right? It's a little bit different. But the Chris Jones phenomenon, very rarely do you face a guy who's that efficient inside or outside. So you do have to constantly think, hey, are we going to slide his way? Are we going to trust it? And but to me, in that situation on that 4th down, it ain't far. I'm gonna trust the one-on-one much more than I'm a free runner. You know what I mean? And it's just, again, it's pick your poison. But you can't always be right. But from my experience, I was always no free runners.
Yeah, Jeff Saturday from ESPN is our guest. All right, what do you think happens on Sunday if you have a prediction?
I have picked the Chiefs 35-34. I hope it's going to be. I hope there's a lot of scoring. I don't want this old Patriots Rams score back in Atlanta, right? Who knows what it's going to be. I think it's a super tight game. I think if Philly stays true to who they are, they'll have a chance to win. Most teams don't, though, man. When you see them play the Chiefs, they start changing who they are, and you saw Buffalo not use Cooks. You saw Houston not use Mixon. They wanted to get in that throw game. You ain't going to beat Mahomes very often doing that. And again, Andy Reid, 2 weeks. It's tough to beat him, bro. Just a smart cat.
Jeff Saturday, ESPN. Jeff, thank you so much. Really enjoyed the conversation, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Absolutely. There's Jeff Saturday from ESPN joining us. We will take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Radio 810 WHB, Jason Anderson with you, a packed show, very busy so far. Our coverage presented by the CW Farm and Ranch Venue, Adams Toyota Lease Summit, Made in KC, and McGregor's Butcher and Bistro. Thank you to Jeff Saturday joining us, along with Adam Teicher and Matt Lane and Gene Steratore and Kurt Warner. If you missed any of those conversations, you can check them out on the podcast. We'll have the best of coming up this weekend as well, and all of our coverage of Super Bowl 59 right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. You know, interesting, Jeff Saturday talking about, the kicking game and all these different things that go a part of it. And he said, kicking game, and the Chiefs probably will have the advantage again this weekend as well. He's not the only one that has brought that up, and the advantage being the Chiefs in the kicking game. Up in Adams with Kay Adams, Sean Payton was on. Dylan, are you familiar with Sean Payton?
Yeah, he's a wonderkind football coach, basically.
That's what they say.
He's a genius, some might say.
That's what they say.
Some.
Yep. Well, I'm a wonder kid. Isn't it Wonderkind? That's what I said.
Like
That's what I said. I said Wonderkind.
That sounds like a laissez-faire from me.
No, it was good. No, it's from, isn't that from The Office? When he says, some people
is.
call me a wonder kid. It's Wonderkind. I said Wonderkind. But here is Sean Payton with Kay Adams and Up and Adams talking about the kicking game and special teams and who has the advantage there.
Before we let you go, what does it come down to this game?
I think there's a significant edge in the kicking game for Kansas City. And I said it 2 years ago with Fox.
This is why I love you. You're so crazy.
No,
really?
Well, Tobe's one of the better special teams coordinators. And it's not a sexy storyline. And so when I said it on Fox 2 years ago, here it is, fourth quarter, and there goes Tony with a 41-yard punt return that set up the leading score. So I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think we got two of the better defenses playing. I think we got two of the better defensive coordinators coaching in Spagnuolo and Fangio. And so I'm not allowed to talk about over and unders and all that
I know that.
But just
you
pay
can talk
attention.
about those Spags blitzes, though, and what,
So I
how
think it's going to be a lower
are.
scoring game.
Okay.
And I think the margin, I do think this Philadelphia team is better than the Philadelphia team they played 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. This is a better Philadelphia team, and I think the kicking game can be significant.
There you go. There's Sean Payton. Sorry, I mean, I'm sitting here as we're playing the Sean Payton clip, and Max Crosby goes by and just, gives me a high five. One of those, like, cool bro, like, hey, what's up, man? The only thing was missing was, like, the bro, like, one hand around the back. You know what I mean? So that was interesting right there, man. So there you go. Got that. But Sean Payton talking about the kicking game as he did a couple of years ago, and Kadarius Toney had that big return. Nico Remigio with a couple of returns here in the postseason so far. And we'll see what happens this week. And also should point out the kicking game, field goals specifically, you got the Eagles on their side, 1 of 7 from 50 yards this year. So, there's a big difference there from what Harrison Butker can accomplish. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. And on the other side, we'll hang out with Dan Orlovsky next. you, heading up until 2 o'clock. Hour and a half still to go here in the show. Our coverage presented by the CW Farm and Ranch Venue, Adams Toyota Lee Summit, Made in KC, and McGregor's Butcher and Bistro. Hey, I want to remind everybody to check out 810WHB.com because teaming up with DraftKings and giving you an awesome opportunity, 810 listeners only, to win a share of $5,000 in bonus bets from DraftKings, and all $5,000 of those bonus bets are going to 810 listeners only. Go to 810WHB.com. Easy to do to sign up and play, and DraftKings, people are going to get the $5,000 in bonus bets, so might as well be you. So that you can go to, again, 810WHB.com, sign up to get those $5,000 in bonus bets from DraftKings, and hooking you guys up with our listeners only. With this game coming up on Sunday that you can hear right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB, all of the coverage. We've talked with a number of people from Westwood One, Kurt Warner already, Gene Steratore, talked with him from Westwood One, Scott Graham from Westwood One that you hear in the studio. Scott Graham in the Westwood Ones. I can't do his voice, whatever. So we talked with him. Going to catch up either today or tomorrow with Laura Oakman, sideline for Westwood One. So you hear it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. And also, you know what's really cool is every time we're at the Super Bowl, our friend John Bucati comes out and paints live while everybody's walking around. Starts from scratch to then painting a picture of Patrick Mahomes, and that's what he's got going on right now. You can check out at John Bucati or johnbucati.com to check out all of his work. And yes, that Bucati name, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Yes, there is a relation with one Nate Bucati. You wouldn't tell in stature. You wouldn't be able to know in stature because John, a much bigger individual. But apparently they do share the same blood in some way, shape, or form. It just doesn't look like it. Sorry, Nate. You know what? That was unfair. I'm not Greg Gurley. I shouldn't be doing that. That's not fair at all to Nate. He's not even here to defend himself, and that's a Greg Gurley Nate thing. That's not it's not a Jason and Nate thing. There's a mutual respect with Jason and Nate. I go third person there. No mutual respect for third person. 913-912-4810. Still a number of different Chiefs that we'll hear from that I got a chance to talk to with Mike Caliendo and Joe Cullen, defensive line coach that I want to get to and play as well. We're going to be joined by Dan Orlovsky here in just a little bit. Also, Louis Riddick is going to join us at 1 o'clock. We talked with him, and he's going to be able to stop by around 1 o'clock. And so hopefully catching up with Louis Riddick, get his thoughts on this matchup and this Kansas City Chiefs dynasty going for 3 in a row. Here. It's an incredibly busy day today so far with all the different people walking around, all the different players walking around. This is the main day that the players are going to be doing their car wash, and Von Miller. We saw Joe Burrow again. Max Crosby's hanging out right behind us. George Kittle was around. Shadir Sanders, Warren Moon's walking around, hanging out here as well. Just a lot of different people here on Radio Row getting ready for this big game. And the players that don't really ever get a chance to walk around on Radio Row and do the car wash? The Chiefs. They don't get to do that. And it's unfortunate they don't get to do that. I remember in L.A. a couple of years ago when the Bengals made it and knocked off the Chiefs. I think Travis Kelce was going around and doing different interviews that year, but that's pretty much it. That's the time in all of these different years. 5 out of 6 Super Bowls for this Chiefs team, and not participating in Pro Bowls and not coming around to the Radio Row to participate in some of these things as well. 913-912-4810. Thank you to Jeff Saturday. Really enjoyed that interview with Jeff Saturday. He's really good at breaking down the game and just getting the thought process of offensive line, quarterback, that center quarterback relationship, and then who the where the protection is going as well. Not sure what that text means. Text says, Jason, I just saw a video of Chiefs players walking in a room, Creed wearing Trey's jersey, Trey wearing Creed's jersey. I didn't see that, man. Oh, man. Text says, at what point will Solomon Wilcots be joining the show from Radio Row? Haven't seen him. I'd love to have him on. Love to have a conversation with what he thinks about the Bengals and Chiefs now. It's pretty confident a few years ago. not sure that confidence would be there as well. So 913-912-4810. Text says, Jason, caught your interview with Clark Hunt this week. Nice to see you finally come around agreeing with Clark that Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time. Thought you might bring up LeBron, but you must have come to your senses. I didn't think it was the right time to get into that conversation with Clark. He was gracious with his time. He was nice to come on. He's a very busy man. I didn't want to, at that point, tell him he's wrong.
I mean, if we've learned anything from sports media, it's always the right time for LeBron Jordan. So
that's
Super
true.
Bowl,
man.
Masters, whatever, World Series. It's time. Like first take every day. So
yes, I don't know. I just didn't think it was really the right time to do that. But he is absolutely wrong. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Like he's definitely wrong. It's obviously Kobe. So that text comes in and says Kobe's better. Yeah. Well, that is 5 years in the making right there, man. That goes back to 2019 when the show first started. I mean, we're on show number, let me find my format for today, 1,292. And we are still rocking the Jordan, LeBron, and Kobe stuff. That is fantastic. 913-912-4810 is the text line.
We're talking about the Cowboys now, too. Jerry,
you know what?
Jones.
Should we?
Yeah.
Should we? Yeah, we can absolutely talk about the Cowboys there. Text says, Jason, it's pretty difficult for you not to break out into your awesome Spags imitation every time you talk about him. Good morning, good afternoon. Not really sure what is it. I don't know. Don't really have anything for this weekend right now, but, with that, fire away. You know what? I don't really remember, but if that's what you said, I take your word for it. But, we're really just focused on this week. That's all I got. That's very limited. It's a very limited impersonation. Oh, there's Jahmyr Gibbs right there. How about that? Hey, Jahmyr Gibbs, he's rocking a wingman jacket. I'm not really sure. So there you go. So Max Crosby walking around and everything. Max, what's up, man? What's up, brother? How you doing, man? You good? Yeah, he's going. All right, man. No, he was going to get a picture real quick, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. Max Crosby gave the thumbs down to us. I appreciate that, man. I like Max. You know what I mean? I like Max Crosby. I just wish they would go ahead and trade him. Go ahead and trade Max Crosby to
he seems to like us,
Yeah, exactly. No, he gave me the high five, and then as they were taking a picture, all of a sudden he changed it to thumbs down next to the Chiefs. I appreciate that, man. So you know what? Here's the thing. We wouldn't get that fun picture if I didn't wake up this morning and go, you know what, bleep it. I know that I'm on Radio Row and all this stuff. I'm gonna rock my Unreal hoodie, rock that Chiefs hoodie from Unreal. So that's what I'm gonna do, and I don't care. It's comfortable. I like it, and I'm talking to the folks in KC on the air, and people can be annoyed by it or not, but they understand what they're walking into. And, hey, you know what? We can keep it real. We can keep it real while we're on the air with it. So I think we'll probably post that picture of Max Crosby stopping by and saying hi to the fine folks of Kansas City. 913-912-4810 is the text line. You know what, Dylan? Let's sneak in a break before Dan comes over. And we'll take a break real quick, and we'll come back, and we'll talk with Dan Orlovsky next. 85 or 86 that are experienced. All they know is Michael.
Well, I actually have a personal story because I grew up in L.A. where the Lakers were predominant, and I was like the only Warrior fan in our school because I'd been born in San Francisco. My friends mercilessly made fun of me, one of whom now coaches the Warriors, so he knows I was right. So now his tenure coalesces with Steph Curry and this incredible run, greatest run they've ever experienced, as my boys were growing up. So I have told them so many times, and they know, I'm like, do not take 1 ounce of this for granted.
Yeah.
Steph is Steph. Cherish every second. And so, yeah. But, it's so cool. I went to a lot of Chiefs games in the 90s, spent a lot of time with the late, great Derek Thomas, one of my absolute favorites ever. Joe Montana and I were very close when he went there.
Yeah.
Love Martin Schottenheimer. So getting to see the revival has been really cool.
Mike Silver is our guest from The Athletic. I wanted to get your, first of all, Renegade Fantasy Football. What's going on with Renegade Fantasy Football?
I'm so glad you asked. So my partners and I came up with a way to make fantasy football better, because we know the worst thing about fantasy football is like, oh my God, my running back went down in the first quarter, it's over, I'm done. Or they're not playing my guy, they're not targeting him, someone on my bench. Well, now we can fix all that. We figured out a way to have real-time substitutions, so you have a deeper bench, and you can really, depending on what your commissioner decides, have a level of engagement that is very high. You could be watching play-to-play every game. You could be at your kid's game and get an alert on your phone, oh, my quarterback's hurt, I better make a move. But it gives you a chance to keep hope alive, even in a playoff situation where someone gets hurt and in the old days, it's over. Now you have a move or moves you can make.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's one of the most frustrating and annoying things. It's like, I'm in the Super Bowl finally, and are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The first carry of the game, he goes down.
Yeah, we have fixed that. We will even find a way to let you go to the waiver wire or make a trade in that scenario.
Wow.
So, and really, in fantasy, as it stands before this, you're the owner, GM, and you're helpless. Now you're the coach. You really can do something on game day.
Yeah, Mike Silver is our guest from The Athletic. So on game day, I've been wanting to talk to you for a couple of weeks because of the story you wrote at The Athletic a couple of weeks ago. It's awesome stuff. And to get the behind-the-scenes sort of view, were you in the meeting there? I mean, I'm picturing you in the meeting because you got he's wearing a hoodie and everything. You got those smaller details. Were you given access there to that time?
I was not in the meeting, but it was described to me really well.
Okay, very good.
And I was in the little family area with Matt Nagy and his wife and sons, and Matt was telling Stacy, his wife, said, remember the text message I sent you last night? Because Patrick was like transforming into a different person, and it was so cool. And I said to Matt, do you know how to send a screenshot? And he was kind of incredulous, like, yeah.
What am I, 5?
And then Stacy looked at me and said, it's a fair question, Matt. So because of their generosity, I was able to see the way he described it from the meeting to Stacy, and that was kind of my jumping off point.
And what I found so fascinating about that, if you haven't read it, go check it out at The Athletic. It's awesome stuff about Patrick Mahomes the night before playing the Bills, slowly transforming into a superhero that Matt Nagy was describing to his wife through text message. But it's also Matt Nagy who's been around this guy a number of times. That's what I found so interesting, is that he's been around him, and even in that moment, being around Patrick Mahomes, knew that something was happening that was different of what was going to take place less than 24 hours from that.
Yeah, and, because Patrick is so personable and such good energy, we don't see the psycho Michael Jordan, Jerry Rice, we don't see that severity as much. But it sounds like the Chiefs players and coaches, when he's getting ready to play a big game too, it's just he just kind of goes into his own world, and wherever he goes, I don't know what happens, but when he plays a big game, it is as close to money as exists in sports. He just, even when the foe is formidable, even when the circumstances are daunting, he just always seems to win big games.
And in that moment, they needed him to play that great of a game because Josh Allen was a very good counter in that game, and he had The highest of his career had a 99% drop back success rate, which is only the fourth time it's happened this year. The highest of his career, 99% success rate in terms of the amount of passes that were first downs, a 99 percentile game in that, and it came in the AFC Championship game in which they won by 3. And I was watching the game, and the week before against the Texans, he wasn't as sharp. And whether it's 24 days off or what, it wasn't as sharp. And in that game against the Bills, there was a pass that was incomplete. And it was when he laid it over the top of Benford to Hollywood Brown, and it just tipped off Hollywood Brown's fingertips, and Benford was right there like a blanket. And I said to my son, oh, we got good Patrick today. That was dropped in on a dime. I was like, oh, we're in for something special the rest of this game.
And I think when people see it three-dimensionally, it's different. Like, being in the press box in Las Vegas when he went to his left and threw that ball back across, then hung up there and looped all the way. I think that was Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah.
Just like, I know on TV it looked really good. I turned to whoever I was next to and said, that's one of the best passes I've ever seen in my life. And I covered Marino and Favre, Elway, and so many other greats, Warren Moon, Montana. But that was, I think when you see it in full dimensionality, it's crazy.
Absolutely. We're visiting with Mike Silver from The Athletic. How many, Michael Jordan cost, whether it be Patrick Ewing or Charles Barkley or Karl Malone, legacies and rings? It seems like Patrick Mahomes is doing that for a good portion of AFC quarterbacks and certainly NFC quarterbacks too.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan would tell you that he's kind of unforgiving that way. Yeah, and that's what's crazy, because if you took a Josh Allen, a Lamar Jackson, a Joe Burrow, and then other guys like Justin Herbert who were so promising, and C.J. Stroud, and said, well, we're going to put them all in one conference, the way the NFL is, you'd go, well, yeah, Patrick's going to win some, but not all, but no, he's still winning all of them.
He's selfish.
He's selfish. And then, the NFC doesn't have that, but they do have now Jaden Daniels coming in, Jared Goff, who's been to a Super Bowl, Brock Purdy, who's been to a Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts, who's now been to 2. And I think on paper, if you looked at this game, you'd say the Eagles have a better comprehensive team. But then I think about, is head coach important? Yeah, I'll give a huge edge to the Chiefs. Is quarterback important? Usually. I'm going to give an edge to the guy who's in 7 years as a starter never done worse than go to overtime of the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
And I just feel like Patrick Mahomes is inevitable, and they'll find a way.
Yeah, visited with Mike Silver. I also wanted to touch on real quick before we let you go, or get your prediction first. The why is everything. How much fun was that for you to research that and write the book? Because it's pretty cool to see the behind the scenes of the innovations and the game evolving, and not just being, this is how we play, this is how we play, this is how we play. Don't break outside, don't color outside the lines. Okay, that's not what we do.
Yeah, and it was really cool for me because it's about the Shanahan-McVay coaching crew. But I started with Mike Shanahan as the 49er offensive coordinator in the early 90s when I was covering him, and I saw him do so many innovative things. Then he goes to Washington and has that staff with Kyle, his son, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel, Raheem Morris, and they've really changed the game, revolutionized it with the way they think. And there's a lot of Chiefs in there for your listeners, including, believe it or not, Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, that's right.
In a couple of Super Bowls.
That's right, yes.
And there's a scene where Kyle is walking back to his hotel room after the 2020 Super Bowl, the first one, and he's with Bo Scaife, a former NFL player and a close friend, and Kyle just says, I feel like God doesn't want me to win the Super Bowl. Imagine how he feels now after Mahomes did it to him again.
Having a 10-point lead in both games, and it's like, how do you not come away with at least one of those victories? What do you think happens on Sunday? Do you have a prediction for the game?
Every time I have to make a prediction involving Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, I go to my fallback, which is I'm going to take Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Probably close, probably from behind, but I just assume that when it comes down to it, he will win.
Yeah, it's like, what do you think the game, how do you think it's going to go? It's going to be a close game because that's all the Chiefs play.
Right.
So I know it's going to be a close game. they'll probably end up on top because that's kind of how it goes anyway. So it is rigged, though. That's the script.
Right. That's the crazy thing. It's rigged. And the way they rig it is Patrick Mahomes is so good and the coaching and players are so good that they win. It's a conspiracy.
It's like when I took a test in high school, in college, the teacher was so dumb, didn't know I was cheating. I hid the answers in my brain. And the teacher never saw that I was cheating the whole time.
That's next level.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was so cool. I told everybody about it. Nobody else would do it, though. They tried different ways to
They couldn't.
Yes, that's right. Mike Silver, The Athletic. Mike, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Renegade Fantasy. That sounds awesome, by the way, to be able to do
Can't
that.
wait till you get to play.
I'm pumped for it. Mike Silver joining us. Go check out that article if you have not read it yet at The Athletic. It's fantastic stuff. We'll continue with more Zone next. 2010 WHB, Jason Anderson with you, hanging out until 2 o'clock. Our coverage is presented by the CW Farm and Ranch venue, Adams Toyota Lee Summit, Baden, KC, and McGregor's Butcher and Bistro. Joining us now from ESPN, it is Louis Riddick here in the zone. Louis, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Loving this week. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a blast, and certainly it's a lot easier to have a lot of fun when the Kansas City Chiefs are here.
No question.
It's becoming sort of a tradition of just like, okay, full February calendar. Honey, I'll be going to the Super Bowl that week.
You guys are getting spoiled, man.
It
People
is.
are
And
getting
it's
spoiled. And you know what's funny about that is, like, for as much as you're getting used to it, there's a lot of people who, I mean, as you know, who are like, we're tired of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a great spot to be in.
Yeah. It's it's the
People hate success when it's too
Right.
much. They
Yeah.
really do. That's bizarre to me, but whatever.
You die the hero, you live long enough to become the villain.
That's it. There you go.
And the Chiefs have
There you
played
go.
well enough to become the villain out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And you know what, as Patrick Mahomes said when asked about being the villain, he said, if winning a lot of games makes me the villain, then I'll be the villain.
No doubt.
I mean, because the flip side is not where you want to be. You
No.
know? You don't want to be the lovable loser.
No, and you know, you guys know, you deal with Patrick, you deal with his football team all the time. It's hard to muster up enough anger and angst to not like this guy. Like, the only reason why you wouldn't like Patrick Mahomes is simply because he just keeps winning.
Yeah.
And I mean, he really is. He's like the face of the league, the face of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's probably the most important Chief maybe in the history of this organization. He'll go down as the most important player ever in the history of this organization. We have endless debates about, is he the GOAT already? You know, this whole conversation.
Mm-hmm.
He's the most talented quarterback to ever play the game. Think about how much you're privileged to see that.
Yeah.
The most talented quarterback to ever play the game. He hit the ground running, throwing 50 touchdowns his second year. I remember being out in Denver, Monday night game. He's rolling left. He can't get the ball off with his right hand. He goes, you know what? Screw it. I'll put it in my left hand and throw.
That's right.
That play right there for me is when he really announced, guess what? It's different now.
Yep.
There's a different set of rules. How the hell do you get mad at that kind of
Yeah.
stuff?
I mean, it's funny because I talk about that play as well, like a
Yep.
lot. I was living in Louisville at the time and watching that play. And the next morning, right, I'm waking up, and that was Monday night, and I'm talking to my wife. I'm like, God, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he did it again last night. They came back, and she was like, well, I thought, didn't you already say, like, how good he is and everything? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, this is kind of different. She goes, well, are they going to go to the Super Bowl then? I said, I'll say this about Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if they're going to go to the Super Bowl this year, but for the first time in my life, I'm confident the Chiefs have a quarterback that will win a Super Bowl.
His first rookie mini camp, his first set of OTAs. Look, you guys know Brett Veach is a great friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to see those guys tomorrow. I'm going to go out there to practice tomorrow. He texted me, and then we talked, and he said, Louis, he's doing it already. That was the first rookie mini camp. He said, we're sitting here looking at each other going, whoa, wait a second. And, you know, that his whole rookie year, they had conversations about whether or not they should put him in the lineup. But Alex was doing such a great job, and Andy's such a loyal dude. He's like, I can't. He'll be better served to not play him. From the first time he put on a Chief uniform, they knew. And that comes along once in a lifetime, so just enjoy it.
Louis Riddick is our guest. You mentioned your relationship with Brett Veach. He pretty much staked a lot of his scouting reputation on this guy in Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback prospect I've ever seen, to the point that he joked about, and Mike Borgonzi joked about Andy Reid going, okay, I get it. Leave my office. Okay, you keep showing me these games.
Yeah.
I get it. Like, you're annoying me to a degree. A lot of other people saw it, but if Mahomes would have come out and been a bust, it'd be like, Brett, you thought this was the best quarterback prospect you've ever seen. That's a lot to put on there when it's like, I want to be this, I want to be a GM, and I'm staking a lot of what I believe in this guy that's the best I've ever seen.
You know, a lot of times that's what it takes in order for you to ascend in the scouting ranks. You have to have that signature guy, that signature scouting report that people look at and go, this is different. It's good enough. It wouldn't have been good enough for him to say, yeah, he's a first round guy and maybe he can be a starter. You know, like, see, that's what most scouts do. Most scouts, quite honestly, they cover their ass. It's, well, he could be, and then he might be. He could be with coaching and with development and with, if his family life is great and the stars align, he could be this. Brett, I remember telling me when I first went to see him, I went back and told Big Red, you have to go see this guy. And then I come back, I told him, you have to come see this guy. He pounded the table for it. And, you know, and Andy's relationship with him going all the way back to the days when Brett was running out buying Andy Big Macs back in the days in Philadelphia, that's why he trusted him.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, cool. And then they move up to get him.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that should, it's at some point in time, if Brett isn't already a guy who's going to be considered to be one of the best GMs of all time, then if they win this Super Bowl, I don't know what else he would need to do as a GM, quite honestly. That would be 4 Super Bowls for him as a GM to be talked about as a guy who should be a Hall of Fame GM.
Visiting with Louis Riddick, and it's interesting you say that because it's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. I went and looked, and I was curious, and I haven't put all the dynasties together, but I went and looked at the Pittsburgh Steelers who won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, and it was different. There was a 48-man roster instead of a 53, but the amount of players that were there with the new salary cap and free agency that were there with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and over that 6-year run, they had 90 players that played in a game over those 6 years.
Okay.
The Chiefs in these 6 years has had 160 different players.
Yeah.
And so the sort of difficulty and difference of a Brett Veach to continue a dynasty over 6 years when there are that many players coming and going to continue to build a team.
Yeah, that's why this whole era is hard to compare to the older eras, obviously. I mean, those Steeler dynasties, their pillars were there for the entire time. I mean, LC, Mean Joe, Mel Blount, Mike Wagner, Donnie Shell, you know, all those guys. I'm just going on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Jack Ham, Jack Lamb. Just think about the competitive advantage you're able to have when you're able to keep guys like that for as long as you want to keep them. And now, I mean, just think about this. Think about the first Super Bowl that Kansas City won against San Francisco down in Miami. And the guy who really makes the game-changing play then winds up leaving, now wants to come back probably. And as soon as he left, everyone thought this offense no way will be different. I mean, will be the same. They won't be able to be the same explosive offense. Patrick's going to take a step back. This is going to be the beginning of the end. You can't lose guys like that. That's why the NFL is set up this way, to punish teams that have success because you can't keep everybody. They're like, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold up. We'll take care of it.
Number 1 offense in the NFL.
Patrick, like, you know, he adjusts his game. Andy adjusts his play calling. Brett goes out and gets some other guy. I mean, it's the stuff that's Hall of Fame stuff. That's what it is. And look, I could go back to the days, man, of sitting there in Philly and sitting in the steam room, you know, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and Brett and I just talking about, you know, East Coast high school football, track and field. I got to run some errands for Big Red tonight, whatever. And he just slowly works his way up to where now, look, he's really good at what he does. I know that people are going to say, well, Andy covers up for a lot of stuff because he's great. Spags covers up for a lot of stuff, and Patrick covers up for a lot of stuff. You know, just look at his draft history. It's not perfect, but he has had some. 2 years ago when they beat Philadelphia, think of all the rookies that played a pivotal role who now are like grizzled vets, so to speak.
3 for 3 for
you know what I mean?
That 2022 draft. They traded Tyreek Hill to get draft picks. And that 2022 draft class, the only person out of all those 9 selections that isn't on the team is Darian Kennard, a 5th rounder, who's on the Eagles, by the way.
There you go.
So he's also 3 for 3.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you've got McDuffie, Karlaftis, and Cook, and Chanel, and Watson, and Williams, and Pacheco, and Najee Johnson, all in one draft class.
Player, key player. Kid, I mean, that – if this was, you know, if we were talking about the Dallas Cowboys or we were talking about, you know, any other high-profile team, you know, the New York Giants, whoever it was, we'd be putting that GM in the Hall of Fame right now, and that guy would be making $10 million a year. That's how we'd be looking at it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, look, Brett makes plenty of money. He don't need me to, like, you know, sit here and stump for him as far as trying to get a pay raise. But the dude has done his job, and it's just cool to see. It's cool to watch.
Yeah.
It really is.
Louis Riddick is our guest. How do you see this game playing out on Sunday?
Man, I mean, it's kind of like it's almost too easy to call how it, you know, what each team's intention will be. Kansas City, look, no one in 18 games, right? The 18 playoff games has ever run for over 100 yards on Spags. Of the 24 games he's been a part of in the postseason, one guy has run for over 100 yards since he has been the defensive coordinator. That's a staggering statistic. That's the key. Saquon, we just found this stat this morning when we were talking about it on Get Up on ESPN. Saquon has 20 touchdowns this year from scrimmage. The average distance of those touchdowns is over 30 yards. It's like 32.5 yards is the average distance on every one of those touchdowns. What?
It seems like a made-up stat, right? That
you
seems
know,
like an
our
exaggeration.
stats guy had to sit there and double-check it.
Yeah.
I said, are you sure? He goes, you have to – this is true. And see, that's why when people thought, Philadelphia can't get to the Super Bowl without a dominant outside aerial attack, I was like, they don't need it because no one can stop this guy. If they ever get that going, they'll be unstoppable. So if you're Steve Spagnuolo, that's where you start. Yeah. You start with 26 and you go, hey, look, Jalen Hurts, if you beat us, God bless you. But you know what I am going to do? I'm going to send 5 and 6 at you as many times as I can if we can get you to second and long. Yeah. That's really how the game is. First down decides the game.
Interesting.
That's what decides the game.
Do you have a pick yet and who wins?
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think we're going to witness history because I love history. I love big-time moments like that. I think Kansas City finds a way, and then we're going to wind up having a whole different conversation about is he the GOAT? Is Andy the, statistically, obviously he's the second greatest coach of all time. One of the maybe people start talking about it in a different light because of what he's accomplished in today's era. Yeah, which is all. That's just great stuff. That'll give you guys content for months.
Yeah,
until next season.
That's right. We were joking. It's like, man, San Francisco. Who are the Chiefs going to play? I don't know. It's San Francisco next year. I'm not sure.
No doubt. I mean, you guys have been spoiled, but it's a good thing.
Yes, we have been spoiled, but I think there's an element of spoiled while also not taking it for granted at the same time because of the long 50 years before they got to that one in 2019. That I'm going to enjoy these 6 years.
I think the thing that everyone you say we use in media a lot of times the word transcendent, and it just gets worn out. You're literally watching a guy who's probably going to be considered, like right now for me, the greatest player of all time in the NFL history is Lawrence Taylor, the most dominant, feared universally player.
Bingo.
I think in the modern era, Patrick Mahomes will be considered the most talented football player to step foot on an NFL field. Because he hit the ground running and it never stopped. Yeah. If that doesn't kind of make you really appreciate what we're watching, when it's gone, you'll appreciate it. Yeah. Because the dude's a shooting star.
Louis Riddick, also a star from ESPN. Louis, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it, man.
Of course, you got
Absolutely. There's Louis Riddick. Really enjoyed that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back and continue rolling. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, heading up until 2 o'clock here in New Orleans. Super Bowl 59, getting ready for that on Sunday. Chiefs going for the three-peat. Joining us now is Thurman Thomas, one of the greatest running backs that has ever lived, walking around with his gold jacket as he should, and also with Mark Singleton, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Southern Recipe Small Batch. What's up, fellas? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing
Unbelievable.
today?
I bet, man. You get to walk around with Thurman Thomas.
Hey, how cool is that?
Right?
How cool is that?
I thought it was funny because Thurman would lead the way, and you would be following him, just like defenders used to be doing, just following Thurman as he was leading the way into the end zone.
I've been watching people stand up and follow Thurman for a long time.
A long time.
Native Texan.
Well, look,
Yeah.
as a Chiefs fan,
get
I
you.
watched Thurman run through the Chiefs a number of times in a couple of years with the playoffs and then the AFC Championship game, man. Oh, man, I got to tell you, Thurman, I was so jealous of you guys growing up, man. I just wanted to taste and experience what it was like to be a Bills fan, to
Right.
just dominate the AFC.
Yeah.
And now, crazily enough, we're sort of living that, man, and it kind of know what the Bills fans are going through.
You guys are winning.
I
You
know.
didn't get the win back
I know.
then. Yeah,
you guys
so-
ran up against the dynasty in Dallas,
Right,
You know, like
exactly.
you guys went to the Super Bowl the
know.
wrong time.
Wrong.
And it's like your Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen may be at the wrong time.
It may be at the
with
wrong
Patrick
time.
Mahomes. It's just one of those timing things.
Yeah, and think about all the other gold jackets on his team. Andre Reed.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some.
Bruce,
great players
I mean,
on that team.
some awesome ones, man. Absolutely. So what's going on with the Southern Recipe Small Batch?
You know, we've been coming here for the last 16 years supporting Coach Ditka and the Gridiron Greats. We have a great party, Cigar with the Stars, tonight, hosted by Mike Golick and Brian Urlacher and Ron Jaworski. And we raise a ton of money and awareness here at the Super Bowl for Coach Ditka and the Gridiron Greats. And we talk about Pork Rind Appreciation Day a little bit. Because what goes better on the biggest pigskin holiday of the year than pigskins?
Yeah, no kidding, man. No
got it.
kidding. Thurman, you a pork round fan?
Oh yeah, I got family. That they ever since I've been doing this, I'm just getting all the addresses that I'm gonna forward them to all you guys because they looking forward to them. So
it's my only superpower, Jason. It's free pork rinds. That's it.
That's a pretty good. This man had some superpowers.
Oh, unbelievable!
Yeah. Oklahoma State in the house. There's some. One of the guys that we do the show with comes in on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Huge Oklahoma State fan.
Oh, okay.
Huge Cowboy fan. So
he didn't come in happy this year.
Right? No, he did not, man. It is crazy though, looking back. Like Oklahoma State has two of the greatest running backs that ever lived that went there. You and Barry both going to Oklahoma State. That's sort of crazy that you guys both wore those colors and played at that school, and how great you guys ended up being in the NFL.
Yeah, you know what's all that about playing together with 2 years.
Yeah.
I was a junior. He was a freshman, and I left and went to Buffalo. He won the Heisman Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
Then he gets drafted by Detroit, which is right there next to Buffalo. And I'm like, I guess we're just going to, just continue to see each other and end up playing against Barry maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the career. Buffalo against the Detroit Lions, but always kept in, touch with him. Still can keep in touch with him today. We did an autograph show down in Detroit, him and myself.
Yeah.
And, I drove down, had dinner with him one night, and did the autograph session. And it was like, I did it because, we don't do it together a lot.
That's
I
cool.
may come in and do Friday. He may come in and do Sunday. So it's different. So he's like, let's do one. So we got together, and it worked out. It's great to see him.
I always want to pick the brain of all-time greats and those that played on great teams, because this Chiefs team continues to find ways to win, and they've got this group of players. Can you put your finger on it, or look at maybe some common denominators as to what your Bills teams had when you guys weren't the number 1 seed every year in the playoffs, but yet you found ways to go to the Chiefs. Haven't been number 1 seed each time they've gone to the Super Bowl. They've been the number 2 seed before. They were, they played in the wild card game last year and ended up winning the Super Bowl. So, what was it about your Bills teams that it's just? You guys got in the playoffs, and it didn't matter what the situation was. You guys found a way to win.
Yeah, I have no idea what it was, man. I think what for us, back in 1988, my rookie year, we actually went to the AFC Championship game against the Cincinnati Bengals, who went on and I think they lost that year to Joe Montana.
Joe Montana, the 49ers,
the 49ers. So
another dynasty that the AFC was running up against, you know.
That's what it seems like all the time, right? You know, so until, you know, Brady and now this coming along. But it was just something about our team, man. When the regular season was over with, we were like, okay, let's make our run. Let's make our run. And I think one of the things that really helped us throughout those years is that we had a very limited amount of injuries with our superstar players. Nobody was injured. Yeah, I mean, I think in 1991, Bruce had a knee injury that kind of messed up his entire season because he had it before, and then it kind of started messing up in the middle of the season. But we were injury-free, man. I think that was the most important thing, you know. Injury-free. We knew how to take care of our bodies. You didn't have to tell our strength and conditioning coach, we know what to do. We know what to do. And so we had some very mature players on our football team.
Did you guys feel maybe from the other sideline, those teams, did you ever feel like there was an intimidation from them feeling it from you as being the Buffalo Bills in the class of the AFC? Because I've always wondered that with the Chiefs, if how many teams may be defeated during the game while they're saying, well, that's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Kelsey and Chris Jones and Steve Spagnuolo over there, that, you know, it's the going gets tough. You start to fold a little bit. Did you guys ever feel that when other teams went into Buffalo or played you guys and it was just, well, now we're playing the Bills and Kelly and Thurman and Reid and Bruce and all these guys?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it was pretty even. I think for the most part, in the AFC, a lot of teams felt like they could beat us. And some teams did play well against us.
Yeah.
I mean, we struggled against – we won the AFC Championship against the Denver Broncos 10-7.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
a crazy comeback against the Oilers.
And the crazy comeback against the Oilers. So I think you have to throw all those things in there, all those factors. But, no, I don't think, you know, we were built for, like, we're going out here and we're going to try to kick your ass for 60 minutes. That was it. Whatever happened, happened. That's just kind of way that we went at the game, how we played the game. And I know, you know, we didn't play well in like the last 3 Super Bowls or whatever. But you know what? The grind to get there, the grind to say, okay, we're going to get it right and keep getting it wrong, getting it right and getting it wrong. So, yeah, man, you got to be mentally really prepared for anything. And I think that team was.
We're visiting with Thurman Thomas and Mark Singleton as the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Southern Recipe Small Batch and the Pork Rind Appreciation Day. This Buffalo Bills team, Thurman, I really, really like Josh Allen. And
what's not like about Josh?
I went into the game, Thurman, in the AFC Championship game, and I said it. I whispered it to the people that I was doing the show with. I didn't want anybody on radio to hear it, so it was just us talking. Maybe it went out of the radio waves. I don't know. But I said, you know, if the Chiefs don't win, I'm actually glad that it's the Bills that would be beating the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And I do think he's going to bust through the door eventually.
I do.
Like he's too good not to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he had to. Yeah, it's the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady all over again.
Or Matt Stafford.
Right. He was there and finally busted through with. Well, you don't want it to be Matt Stafford because he had to go to another team.
He had to go to another team. Josh don't need to go to another team.
No, not at all. Sorry. Not at all. But yeah, and the players really respect that. I think Patrick Mahomes earlier this week said, "I'm sad it had to be us."
Right.
I'm not happy that it was us that had to beat Josh Allen and keep him from winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You think he gets one in Buffalo?
I think he gets one. I think he gets one. I really do, man. I really do. I think, you know, he's at a point. I'm like, this was like a difficult year for him, but he handled it. He challenged himself, and I think it was his best year ever, right?
Yeah,
he was amazing without the weapons, you know, and just using everybody.
Yep.
The running game was there. You know, we wish the defense probably, you know, could have played a little bit better, but I just think the guy gets it now. He gets it. And I think within these next 2 to 3 years, I think Buffalo will have one.
Yeah. Are you liking watching the reemergence of the running back with a guy
Loving
like
it,
Saquon Barkley?
Loving every bit of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Running backs, they're a dime a dozen. Oh, yeah, tell that to Saquon.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm still mad that they didn't let him get the record held by Eric Dickerson.
Right.
Man. I'm like, come on,
right.
man.
I mean, I think he wanted to do it too.
I think.
Absolutely.
And they were saying like, well, you don't want to risk injury.
Yeah.
I said, well, you know what? The New England Patriots did it with Belichick and Tom Brady to go undefeated.
They went undefeated.
They played.
Yep.
So why not, guys?
They went for history on that.
Yeah, and you're
on
going
that day.
against the Giants too. You know you're gonna get their record.
Yeah, absolutely.
I tell you, who's happy about the running back being reemphasized is the kids coming out this year.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they've got a chance of being. It's
Ashton
a different
Jeanty
kind of
kids. Yeah, absolutely. One more time with the Southern Recipe small batch of what's going on with the pork rinds.
Gridiron Greats. We can go to porkrinds.com. You can enter our sweepstake to win 2 Super Bowl tickets next year.
Nice.
We'll
see who the Chiefs are playing next year in the Super Bowl.
No,
just joking, Thurman. I'm joking.
You're killing me over here, man.
Well, we're not talking about Dallas. So we've got a great sweepstakes. We've got great ways that people can go to our website or go to gridirongreats.org and help coach and help us help these great players that we all grew up as our heroes in the best football week of the year.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it, and enjoy your time here, Thurman.
All right. Thank you so
much.
Absolutely. There you go. Thurman Thomas, Mark Singleton. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next. continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, heading up until 2 o'clock. We got a couple more days here on Radio Row before we head into the weekend, and the Chiefs and Eagles get at it. And, year number 3 as we are hanging out in a row at the Super Bowl. Joining us now, Harry Douglas, Freddie and Harry, ESPN Radio. You hear it on ESPN Kansas City. Harry, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Well, Jason, I'm doing well, and thank you for having me and just talking to you before we even came on about the people that we know and the whole nine and, the Louisville program and where they are right now, football and basketball-wise.
Yeah.
I thought Josh Hurd, the AD, hit 2 home run hires.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, with Pat Kelsey and the basketball team and what they're able to do right now currently, but Jeff Brom.
Yeah.
And like I told you, to have a guy at Louisville leading the charge that understands that program through and through, playing there from the city of Louisville, but also previously coaching there, it's been tremendous 2 years, I would say, so far.
It's interesting because I definitely want to talk Chiefs with you, but, Kansas has Lance Leipold that it feels like KU fans are like, oh, they're embracing him. Like, he gets it. He understands, like, what it's going to take. And Kansas State has Chris Kleiman, and it's like, okay, this is a Kansas State guy. It just feels like it's that Bill Snyder-esque, right? Mizzou's got Eli Drinkwitz that they're wrapping their arms around the last couple of years of having those double-digit win seasons. The importance of, like, having a college program that isn't an Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, to have a coach that sort of that marries the culture of what the history was with who he is and how the fan base sort of appreciates and receives that coach.
So, number one, you have to be able to understand the history to tell it to players and families as you're going to recruit.
Yeah.
And not try to get by in doing it and leaving important pieces to the puzzle out. So I think that's an important piece. But also, when you have a guy that loves what they do and really embraces everyone within their organization or their program, I should say, that's how you know it's the right guy. He's not a guy that's looking for the next job.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, every guy wants to be compensated for the great job that they do. But at the same time, he loves where he is, and he wants to make a difference at that program. That's what I love about Jeff, man.
Yeah. Harry Douglas is our guest, Freddie and Harry, ESPN Radio. All right, playing the game in the NFL for 9 years, from a player's perspective, how improbable, impressive of what's happening with this Kansas City Chiefs run that they're on right now?
Well, it's funny because the New England Patriots, after they finished their dynasty and then you had the retirement of Tom Brady, you say to yourself, God, man, we're never going to see this ever again or for a very, very long time. And then Patrick Mahomes comes along. So to make 7 AFC championship games, 5 Super Bowls in the last 6 years, but different versions of their football team to be able to do it. Like early on, you have the Tyreek Hill, you have the explosion, that whole 9. But Patrick Mahomes saying, you know what, okay, Tyreek Hill's no longer here. I have to revamp some things in the manner that I do them to make sure I'm not putting our football team in a bad position. So now Patrick Mahomes is continuously to grow as a quarterback too. In the process of doing it, he's winning Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So I think that's been the most remarkable part in doing it. And what we've learned about these last few years, when you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, you better have your A game. You better not make a mistake. And when Patrick Mahomes or the Kansas City Chiefs make one, you better capitalize off of it.
What does that do for the other team if they're thinking we can't make a mistake or, all right, Mahomes has the ball late? Because I know following you on Twitter when the Chiefs fumbled on that second drive and it felt like they were doing anything they wanted, right? They were up and down the field. They scored the touchdown. Bills got the field goal. Chiefs going right back down the field. And then the fumble happens. And then the Bills went and scored a touchdown. Next thing you know, you look up like, hold on. Chiefs have dominated this game. How are they losing 10-7? But the Chiefs still end up finding a way to win that game. Demoralizing may not be the right word because these teams are good and they've been through the fire, and the Eagles have been here before. But as a player on the other side, is there that element of, man, Patrick's got the ball again? Oh, no.
Well, see, that's why I believe if you're the Philadelphia Eagles in this matchup, don't allow it to be a close game.
Yeah.
And I know easier said than done, but there have been opponents of the Kansas City Chiefs that had an opportunity to put them away. Like Bruno Mars has this song, Leave the Door Open. Don't leave the door open.
Yeah.
You can't leave the door open for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs because if you do, 9 times out of 10, they're going to come back there and get you.
Yeah, they were trailing by 10 to the 49ers in the 2019 Super Bowl, won by 11. Yep. They were trailing by 10 to the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts fumbles the football, drops the football. Chiefs score a touchdown off that and come back. And then last year, trailing and then winning in overtime against the 49ers.
That's the thing, the margin of error.
Yeah.
Like, it is thin. Mm-hmm. You're on thin ice when you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, but you pretty much have to play a perfect game. But I say this, while striving to be something we can never be perfect, you become great.
Yeah.
And for the Buffalo Bills, they're going to learn from it. But at some point, you got to have that breakthrough. For Lamar Jackson, you got to learn from it in the Baltimore Ravens. At some point, you got to have that breakthrough. For the Philadelphia Eagles, this is their second time. You get another bite at the apple. Yeah. Those other teams I just mentioned, they're in the AFC, right? So they might not have a necessary another opportunity on a Super Bowl level or have the opportunity, period. For Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, you have another opportunity to avenge what happened 2 years ago. Even though you played well, it was that one mistake that cost you.
We've compared it a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and just, again, Josh Allen not being able to get over the hump and knocking on the door, but it's not opening up yet. And I believe when it comes to like college basketball, you knock on the door in the Elite Eight a number of times, you'll get to a Final Four, right? And they said that on I think Monday when they had their press conferences of like, we're just going to keep getting there, knocking on the door, we're going to knock it over, we're going to get through. But we talked about it the last couple of weeks of just like comparing it to Jordan in the 90s, because Karl Malone couldn't get one and Barkley couldn't get one, and Ewing couldn't get one, and Ewing had a chance but the Rockets ended up winning that one. And so there's so many players in that era in the 90s that went ringless because Michael was selfish and was winning them all. And it feels like in the AFC it's like, hold on, man, Allen, Lamar, Burrow, these guys are littered with accolades, and yet only one of them has even participated in a Super Bowl, and Mahomes is playing in his fifth right now. It has that feel of like he's taking some legacy away from other players because he's just simply that good. Other players that would be maybe historic players. That Josh Allen may have 2 Super Bowls if Mahomes plays baseball and follows his dad's footsteps instead of playing football.
That's real life, right? And that's reality. And at the end of the day, the way it's trending is that we're going to have a lot of guys that get a gold jacket at some point, but will not have the Super Bowl or Super Bowls on their resume because of one guy. And that's the same way that Michael Jordan was when he played the game. And, there's a lot of people like, oh, but Michael Jordan never lost in the finals. Shut up. Be quiet. We understand the gist of what we're saying.
Yeah.
Like for a young man to start at the quarterback position his first 7 years, to play a 7 straight AFC championship game, that's insane. That's unheard of, right? To start off your career. His first year, you throw for 5,000 yards and have 50 touchdowns. That's how you start off your career in 2018 as a starter? That's unheard of.
Yeah. MVP
right?
first year.
And here's the difference between him and Brady early on. Brady had to be supported by the defense early on. Patrick Mahomes had it on his shoulders early.
Yeah.
They didn't have the great defense that they have right now.
Playing Harry Douglas is our guest, Freddie and Harry, ESPN Radio. Playing that position, wide receiver, pass catcher, playmaker, whatever we want to describe it. How much does Mahomes and Kelsey and their relationship and what you see from playing the game? How much does Kelsey help Patrick in certain things, and how much does Travis help make Patrick, and how much does Patrick help make Travis?
I think it goes hand in hand. And Travis was a former quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So he's seeing the field the same way that Patrick Mahomes is seeing it. That's why when Travis Kelce's supposed to run a corner route and he sees a certain coverage, he stops, and Patrick Mahomes puts the ball on him. Those guys are in sync.
Yeah.
They're on one accord. So when you can improvise mid-route and it not disrupt a play or your quarterback not throw an interception because of it, it tells me that you two guys are in sync and in line with one another on all cylinders, on all fronts.
Yeah. And it's
music, man. It's like going to an orchestra or
playing jazz, just sort of like flowing, just playing off each other.
That's
and getting
is.
The beat. And it's one of the things why this is not to talk down about any other tight end. But when Dalton Kincaid came in the league and the first couple of weeks, and I feel bad for Dalton and that play because that was a tough. I mean, when you see it from the end zone angle, it's
but
sort
I will
of
say this:
as a wide receiver that played in the league,
well, you're drafted in the first round.
Yeah,
you got to make the play.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
That's the difference between the Bills not being here and the Chiefs being here, because the surrounding pieces for Patrick Mahomes did their job and made the play when the play was asked for them to be made. The Buffalo Bills didn't.
Yeah. And when speaking specifically of Dalton Kincaid, like the first month or so when he was with the Bills, it's like, wow, they found their Travis Kelce. And my response was, like, he may have the attributes, but what gets lost maybe, across the league and maybe from fans is that Kelce isn't Kelce just because he runs a route on a piece of paper. What makes Kelce is exactly what you're talking about, of being able to read the defense with Mahomes. And so you may have the skill set of Kelce, but it doesn't make you Travis Kelce.
Well, look at the AFC Championship game. Look at how many guys were able to get open and to have big plays because of the attention that Travis Kelce draws. Like, I see him, being a pick man on crossing routes and making the defenders bubble over top, and now you have a wide open wide receiver coming underneath because Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Like little details, not just knowing that, hey, I got to run this right on this play, but understanding the full concept and what's trying to get done when you have man coverage, when you have zone coverage. That's when you know you're entrenched in it and you've done your due diligence as a player.
And it's great because, like, the Chiefs, they hardly ever get man coverage, and they hardly ever get anything but, too deep and shell coverage. But against the Buffalo Bills, they went heavy man-to-man, like the Houston Texans, heavy zone. Kelce was eating. So the Bills went, Kelce's not going to beat us. We're going to go heavy man-to-man. Okay, well, here's Hollywood Brown for a couple of quick.
Here's
Juju
Xavier
Smith-Schuster. Here's Xavier Worthy, right? Get the ball in his hands. It's like, okay, so if you want to go man-to-man, they actually this year, as opposed to maybe last year, they got the weapons to attack the man-to-man with Hollywood and Xavier and Juju even, but we're not even talking about DeAndre Hopkins.
So here's another key component. Andy Reid is a play caller, right? So think about the Buffalo Bills had an opportunity to get the ball back, 3rd and 9. Andy Reid, knowing that you're going to be in man coverage, he ran a play that when I was with the Tennessee Titans, we call all cross. And we're trying to get our linebacker, we're trying to get our running back matched up on a linebacker, man-to-man wise, and we're trying to force that linebacker to run through traffic to try to guard him. So you have everyone, whether it's the left side of the formation, which the Chiefs have, run shallow routes, create that traffic. And it's impossible for the linebacker to get through the traffic.
Yeah.
And that's why you have a wide-open Samaje Perine.
Yeah, and ends up just and staying in bounds, and the Chiefs go crazy. It's been amazing. How do you see this game playing out this weekend against the Eagles? Because Saquon feels like just such a difference.
So I do believe that Kansas City is going to be successful in minimizing the run. Now, when I say minimize,
it's Saquon.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So. Do enough. Don't allow the explosive plays. I think that's what Saquon has hurt a lot of opponents this season, especially in the playoffs. It's the explosive plays, man. When you don't make them work on offense, like the first play of the game in the NFC Championship game goes for 60 yards, and you have 3 missed tackles, you can't have that.
Yeah.
Make them work for everything that they want.
Yeah.
Don't give them the easy way.
Yeah. You think the Chiefs win?
I got
win?
Chiefs.
You have the Chiefs
I have the
winning?
Chiefs close.
All right. Well, they always play close.
I know.
It's a close game.
Because they know how to win those games.
Right. It's like, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to be a close game.
It's part of their culture, man.
Yeah, that's right. Harry Douglas, Freddie and Harry, ESPN Radio. Great stuff on that show. And great stuff hanging out with us, man. I appreciate it. As always, Harry Douglas. Enjoy the game this weekend, man.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, there's Harry Douglas. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone coming up right after this. Wrap things up here on this Thursday edition of the show. Crazy day today, and it'll only continue going into tomorrow. Shout out to our sponsors, Xfinity, Shamrock Roofing and Construction, The Big Biscuit, and Subaru of Olathe. Do not forget to check out the DraftKings, 810WHB.com, $5,000 in bets we are giving away. DraftKings is giving away to our listeners. People are going to get a share of that $5,000. It might as well be you. Again, 810WHB.com. We got some food here, Dylan. You guys got a food drop today, and I wasn't even there to enjoy it?
Well, I think they heard all the food talk this week, and they wanted to toss their hat in the ring. Whataburger hooked us up because not only are they doing stuff for us today here, they are doing a free fry Red Friday. So you can go to any Whataburger in the KC area and get a free order of fries tomorrow to celebrate the Super Bowl. So I got a burger, I got wings, and they also have a new chicken fajita burrito that I'm ready to get into.
Nice. Heck yeah, man. That would have been nice to enjoy here for lunch. You know, the lunch here at the at Radio Row, not exactly the New Orleans flavor, but that's fine. Whatever. It's food and it's free, so never going to complain about that. But boy, I could use some Whataburger.
Hey, if it's free, give me 3, man. That's
darn right. Free $99. That's what they are selling
Best
it for.
Price
here.
ever.
That's exactly right. Shout out to our guests today, Kurt Warner and Gene Steratore, Matt Lane from KC Sports Network, Adam Teicher, talked with him, Jeff Saturday, hung out with him, and Thurman Thomas, enjoyed him hanging out, and Harry Douglas right there as well as we wrap things up here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We will be back tomorrow. We hand it over to Soren Petro and the program coming up next. Enjoy it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.